Not so long ago, unscrupulous people dumped nuclear effluents into the sea, which led to the mutation of more marine organisms. The Heroes Association sent two S-class heroes to the scene, and right now, with the help of Super Radio, the host was broadcasting live from the place of Advent. A superhero in blue robes hovered over the ocean, where the whirlpool was swirling. From the whirlpool, mutated red fish bent down on the hero. Looking at these animals, the hero frowned and said that these guys have no shame or conscience. How many nuclear emissions do it take to create so many mutated creatures? Clenching his fist, the S-class nimble man enveloped him with a blue aura and shot it towards these mutated fish. The streams of energy destroyed the fish like flies, but there was no end to them. From under the water they unhitched with a crackle of electricity, but Nimble Man did not give up. Shouting that he would solve them all at once, the hero began to accumulate a ball of water between his hands, and then disconnected them on both hands and calling the name of the reception released a water tornado towards the fish. Zhu Shuntian, a student who has no strength, was watching the whole incident through the phone. He said with admiration that the S-class hero is really strong. Suddenly the thought came to the guy's head that this place is not far from the sea, and therefore he decided to sneak away from busy and take a look with one eye. This world where superpowers were everywhere. Heroes were revered and praised by everyone. But even here there were ordinary people who did not have superpowers, and they were in protected premises under the jurisdiction of the world government. The guy cautiously looked outside the door, whether there was anyone or not, and seeing that there was no one, and smiling, said that it looked like the doorman had gone to the cafeteria. He finally had a chance to escape. Running through the streets, the guy was excitedly thinking about getting there on time and getting an autograph. At this time, in the depths of the sea, where the base of the nuclear power plant was, a girl with white hair in an underwater suit was swimming towards him. At this time, a voice came from the earphone in her ears, which said that she was done here, and asked the president if she had found the source of the pollution. The Water Witch, who was also an S-class hero, and even the president of the Association of Heroes, swimming towards the station said that she was almost there. She needs 2 more minutes. At the same time, inside the observation room, one of the observers said with concern that the camera shows that someone is approaching the territory at high speed. A man with yellow hair asked a subordinate about how the hell they found this place, and was his subordinates mocking him. This is a nuclear plant built at the bottom of the sea at a depth of 5,000 meters. At the same time, there was a crash and a huge hole appeared in the wall of the station. When the fervor subsided, the Water Witch appeared, smiling maliciously, said that she had finally found him. Looking at the uninvited guest, the workers immediately recognized her by her silver hair and suit and in a panic did not know what to do. The girl, looking at them, said that it looked like they were very brave once they dared to cause riots on her territory. Shouting that they should burn an ode, the girl immediately released several whips of water with which she threw the workers away. After the girl had finished off the workers, she received a call from the news anchors of the Superpower wireless television. The presenter asked her that she was looking for a source of pollution, so that's what the situation is now. Looking at the holographic screen, the girl said that they called just in time. She just finished dealing with these people. She also found a factory and was going to deal with nuclear pollution a little later. At this time, the girl abruptly turned towards the camera with anger and raised her akin finger and said that these scums should not force her to visit this place again. Otherwise, she guarantees them that next time, they will be the first to suffer from the source of pollution. Watching this broadcast, Zhu Shuntian admiringly said that it was really cool to have strength. At this time, the guy was seen by one girl with silver hair and a guy with red hair. Grinning, the guy told his girlfriend that based on the clothes of this guy, he was from the School of Animal Husbandry. The girl, too, looking at him, said to a friend that they should teach this pet that wanders the streets a lesson on behalf of the teacher. At the same time, a spirit woman with golden hair was hovering over the heavens of the world. Looking at the world from above, she asked with interest what was going on in this world. The woman was the mistress of the heavenly kingdom, Zai Wangmu. Looking at the people from whom negative energies emanated, the girl grimaced and said that they were all vile. These people are just terrible. They are definitely not worthy of her soul. When will she have a chance to restore her physical body? Turning around, she suddenly saw a guy without this evil energy and was surprised to notice that it looked like she had found a suitable vessel. At this time, the red-haired guy, looking angrily at Shuntian, told him that pets did not belong here. He must return to his orphanage. The guy grinned, clenched his fist, and asked what he was talking about. Doesn't he have superpowers? Did his teacher ask the redhead a little homework? If the redhead wants to, Shun-chan can ask him some more. Although he said this, the guy thought to himself that the white uniform of the school seemed to really catch his eye. He should have taken this into account. Looking at this situation from the side of Zai Wangmu, the golden-haired beauty quite said that this guy is really good. Even in the face of the oppression of the powerful, he does not admit defeat at all. He has the same noble soul as the woman herself. Smiling, she said that she would now see if he was worthy to accept a woman. While the woman was deciding whether this guy was worthy of her soul or not, the redhead laughed angrily and using super strength, said that Zhu Shuntian was too arrogant. They definitely should teach him a lesson. A vine wrapped around the red-haired man's hand, and shards of ice rose above the girl's hand. The sun was shining in the sky, but Shun Tian's bound cries were heard in the forest, asking him to be released right away. Looking at these two with anger, the guy once again told them to let him go, they are crossing the line. Smiling maliciously, the girl told the guy not to look at her, so she was already ashamed. The redhead approached the guy with bloodlust in his eyes, said that he had recently learned a new technique, and it looked like he saw a great chance to try it on this guy. Looking apprehensively at this patient, the guy thought that he should have just ignored them. The redhead hit the trunk with the force and shouted for him to listen to his command. The red-haired man's power penetrated the tree and went along its roots, waking up one monster. The monster with 4 eyes asked gloomily about who was disturbing the king's peace, and the redhead laughed loudly and shouted that his power had worked. The girl asked him what he had done, but with delusions of grandeur, the redhead said that he would force the weight of the forest to obey him. But while he was talking, a huge palm was moving in his direction. The monster's palm grabbed the redhead and the monster growled angrily. The monster also grabbed the girl, pulling out a tree by one, thanks to which Shun Chan was freed. The girl in a panic screamed at the redhead, asking what he had called. The monster lifted the redhead up and shouted that he needed strength. It was an S-class monster king of the forest. Panicking, the girl screamed at the guy to do whatever, but the guy himself was in a pitiful position. The monster literally sucked the life out of him, and after a while, the red-haired young guy turned into a dried-up and wrinkled guy. The monster with a glint in his eyes turned his gaze to the girl, saying that this was not enough. After drying it as well, he threw it away and looked at Shun Tian, who was sitting on the ground. The monster said that this force was not enough for him to fill in the gap, and the guy, seeing this, could only calm himself, saying that it would all end soon, because the hero would come to his aid. The monster glanced at the guy, looked away, asking why the man was here without strength. This is a bad omen. Hearing this, the guy went into a rage and pointed at the monster, shouted at him not to look down on him. After all, his strength is just slowly awakening. When he has it, he will kill such monsters in a matter of seconds. Lifting the guy by the collar, the monster looked at him and laughed loudly, saying that he had never heard such loud words from bugs like this guy. At this time, a fire talisman flew from somewhere and crashed into the shoulder of the monster exploded. Because of the pain, the monster threw Shun Tian away and he fell headfirst. With the wind blowing, the girl went downstairs asking the guy if he was okay. The girl with the huge roll of scroll on her back was King Meng from the east of the 66th generation of Taoism. In the city of Mirage, where the headquarters of the Association of Heroes was located, an alarm was heard inside one of the premises of the association, reporting that a strong energy reaction had occurred in the area of Mount Yuden. It is also assumed that there was an S-class monster king of the forest. Looking at the red screen of the holography, a red-haired girl who was in the room asked which of the heroes they could summon right now. A girl with short green hair, apparently an assistant, said that most of the S-class heroes are on assignments. Adjusting her glasses, the girl added that the hero Bright Star is already on his way back. A red-haired office lady with a gloomy face said that it means that there are only A-class heroes in the city now. Then, looking at the assistant, the girl asked about where the president and the nimble man were. Weren't they on a mission in the nearby sea? An assistant with papers in her hands said that after the nibbleman finished with the mutated creatures, he went straight to the Windy City to deal with the hurricane disaster. The president is completing an investigation into the nuclear wastewater incident, and as expected, he will return in 3 days. This shocked the lady in the black uniform, and she said irritably that in 3 days their headquarters would be destroyed. Then, turning around, she ordered that all A-ranked heroes in the city be gathered immediately. They should establish a perimeter to ensure the safety of citizens as a priority. At this time, Zhu Shuntian, lying under the feet of the stranger who saved her, looked up with embarrassment, and thought that he was saved, and after all, a little more and he would have come to an end. The girl looked at him with concern and asked if he was okay. The guy immediately turned around with a glint in his eyes, shouted that she was amazing and also beautiful, and then he asked with interest whether the power of fire was available to the girl. The girl, seeing the excitement of the guy, thought that she could fit in again. Apparently she was waiting for a beating at home again. And then smiling, the girl picked up the Taoist talisman and said that the guy was wrong. She used this talisman. The guy looked at the yellow piece of paper with interest and said that it was the first time he had seen such a thing. At this time, the enraged king of Lesser roared with all his might. The monster regenerating the arm shouted that this man was cursed. Angrily raising his hand, the monster with an angry glint in his eyes said that he would make them bow down before him. The girl covered the guy, activating the talisman, told the guy to get up behind her. She threw the talisman towards the monster and it touched and caused an explosion. But soon vines with thorns flew out of the smoke of the explosion in their direction, and seeing this, the guy said that it was useless. No matter how many times she attacks, they continue to grow. The girl folded her hands in the seal and began to emit a crushing aura, telling the great emperor to give them the protection of an indestructible barrier. A purple circle formed under the guy and the girl, and a purple ball rose from the circle, began to protect them from the swings of the vines. The girl screamed at the guy to come closer to her and the guy immediately listened to her. With surprise, the monster realized that these bugs were alive and therefore asked them why this was so. The guy gave a thumbs up with admiration and said that these Taoist amulets are simply amazing. The guy looked at the monster with a grin and mockingly told Tom that he really was an S-class monster. If that's all he can do, then they won't even need an S-class hero. With an angry flash of red eyes, the monster viciously grinned and said the guy should not be arrogant. Then releasing the oppressive energy, the monster shouted that he was the king of the forest and everything here obeys him. With his mouth wide open, looking at the vines that had risen, the guy asked that it looked like the monster had not used all its strength. Huge vines began to surround these two from all sides and the girl, seeing this with concern, said that this amulet could protect them only from ordinary attacks. If this vine hit them, then they could suffer. One of the vines flew towards the girl, and the guy immediately grabbed her, jumped back, shouting for her to jump away. Liana got on the ground, where these two had just been. The vines surrounded the guy and the girl, and at this time, the golden-haired girl who was watching everything said that this guy was too weak. He's only good as a human shield. At this time, the guy and the girl fell thanks to what the monster grabbed them and said with an evil grin that he finally caught them. They're not going anywhere now. Looking at the tormented girl burning with a scarlet aura, the guy also honored the disgusting feeling as if his vital energy was flowing out of his body. Losing consciousness, the guy could not believe that he would die so stupidly and in such a place. When the guy closed his eyes, he found himself in a strange place, and immediately a voice was heard telling him that he was not giving up too soon. Still unconscious, the guy mentally asked what was going on here and who was talking to him. But soon he came to himself and with a headache, looked around and asked what kind of place it was. A golden-haired girl appeared in front of the guy and told him that he had a talent for cultivation. Therefore, he should try to become immortal under her guidance. The guy finally raised his head and seeing this shining lady surrounded by stars asked who she was. The violet eyes of the woman looked kindly at the guy, and she said that she was the one who would help him get out of this problem. Smiling, the woman looked at the guy and asked what he thought, and it was better for him to think carefully. The guy, looking at this beautiful maiden, because of which he was embarrassed, asked that she would definitely be able to defeat that monster. The girl smiled and said that of course, as soon as the guy allows her to enter his body to teach him cultivation, he will be able to become immortal. Looking at her, the guy thought that this beautiful girl does not look like an evil being who wants to take control of his body. Then he turned his head away, scratched his nose and asked with disbelief how the girl could prove that cultivation would make him stronger, and thought to himself that first he needed to make sure if she could defeat that monster. Internally, the girl was furious that this impudent man dared not believe her. If she didn't need to rebuild her physical body, she would have skinned it alive. But restraining her thoughts, the girl smiled awkwardly and said that he was telling the truth. Cultivation opens up many advantages. The guy, still looking doubtfully at the girl, asked her what these advantages were. Approaching her, the girl smiled and said that cultivation cleanses and calms the mind, and also allows the guy to live for thousands of years. He will have a lot of time to study the world and the true meaning of all things. Snorting, the guy spread his hands and said that thousands of years sounds stupid. Even if it's true, he doesn't need to live that long. The girl created a ball with elements inside and between her hands, and said that longevity is just a bonus. Cultivation will allow the guy to control the natural elements, not to mention that he will also be able to move mountains and divide seas. The power to create or destroy the world will be in the hands of the guy. The guy twisted his face, said that he did not believe her. Despite everything she had just said, he was going to die anyway. Enraged, the woman hit the guy on the head with a ball and screamed that he was stupid. When he opens his mind, and when she enters his body, she will share her power. The guy remembered the girl who saved him, and thought what he should do. Because of his weakness, that girl might die. He had a chance to become stronger, and he had to take a chance and let this woman enter his body. The guy got up and said that he would do it, but how could he let her in? The girl vaporizing the ball told him to relax his body and calm his mind, and when her soul enters him, he must not resist. Clenching his fist, the guy quite said that he would do everything without problems if she would help him deal with that monster. At this time, in Mount Wudang, the S-class monster king of the forest put the guy on the ground, where the girl with blue hair was lying. Grinning, the monster said that this pathetic little man spoke so boldly that he would stop him. It looks like it will happen in the next life. While the monster was holding the guy, suddenly a flame lit up on his forehead, and his black hair turned gray. The guy released a murderous aura and shouted that he would not need the next life, because he would kill the monster right now. The monster looked at the guy burning with red energy with surprise and said that it was impossible because he had to absorb his energy. The guy with the tattoos on his face frowned and shouted for the devouring monster to obey him and devour everything in its path. After the guy's words, a blood-colored ball began to form in front of his palm, which began to pull all the power out of the monster, forcing him to freeze in place. The monster, feeling the numbness of his body, asked with horror why he could not move. The red ball began to absorb the monster, raising a storm of energy. At the same time, the golden-haired girl thought that even 10% of her strength would seem incredible to the boy. If she could convince him to cultivate the path of immortality, her revenge plan could finally progress. While the girl was thinking about her own, the ball completely absorbed the monster and then disappeared after leaving only the wind. The guy flying in the sky began to descend, and as soon as his foot touched the ground, he came to his senses and asked about where the monster had gone. And then, with a pale face, he asked about what had just happened. Turning around, he saw an immortal cultivator who told him that the monster had been slaughtered by his body. And then looking at the guy, the girl added that as he sees, she did not lie to him. Once he started practicing her technique, he would be able to increase his strength. The guy said with admiration that cultivation is amazing and he wants to learn it. At this time, at the Shanghai City School for the Unawakened, someone shouted, asking if they could go faster. They should not drag their time, because if they hesitate, none of them will fly away. On the football field of the school, there was a huge plane similar to a mic, just large, in which people entered one by one. And there were a lot of other people next to the transport. Standing next to the plane, a girl in an office uniform told the students not to panic. The Superhero Association has already sent 2A ranked heroes to protect them. All of them will be able to safely evacuate. At this time, one of the blonde students, another fat student, asked if he had seen Zhu Tian. Xiao, scratching his head, seemed that most likely he had sneaked away again to watch the battle of rank heroes, so the blonde cannot worry about him. In the vicinity of the school, someone bent high over the forest when it was surrounded by strange type monsters. This someone was an A-ranked superhero named the Fiery Executioner, and folding his hands in technique, he used ninjutsu and spewed a fiery phoenix. The fiery phoenix that escaped burst into the enemy camp and engulfed the monsters in flames. At this time, a human voice rang out from the crowd of monsters, telling a friend not to take away his prey. The bespectacled man with a murderous look turned around and let out smoke from a cigar. Dissatisfied in an instant, appeared with flashes of lightning behind the monster, cutting it in half. It was an A-rank superhero in 10th place. Lightning Blade. Surrounded by tree-type monsters, the two heroes leaned on each other's backs. The Fire Executioner, using the seals again, said that it was boring here. He would like to fight the king of the forest as soon as possible. His partner grinned and told him not to be so self-confident, that there was a huge difference between them and an S-rank monster. It would be suicide on his part. At this time, suddenly one of the monsters gave a roar and all the monsters turned and ran into the forest. Looking at them, Lightning Blade, not understanding, asked about what happened. Why did these monsters head into the depths of the forest? The shocked Fire Executioner looked at his friend and asked if the king of the forest had really been defeated. At this time, the guy was looking at a bunch of monsters that were running right in his direction and asked what was wrong with them, because now they are running straight to him. Raising his hand, the boy said he began to expect the same power as it was that time, but nothing happened. With shock and panic, looking at his hand, he shouted that there was no reaction. The girl, looking at his attempts, grinned, said that for the first time the guy did everything with her help, so that he could repeat it himself. He needed to train more. Turning to the girl, the guy asked in surprise that he would have to run away now. The girl smilingly said that learning cultivation takes time, so he should run faster. Taking the blue-haired girl on his back, the guy ran as fast as he could, chased by monsters. On the way, he shouted to the blonde that she was talking too easily about this. It would be better for her to help him, or he would be finished. At this time, a thunderstorm was raging in another place in the sky. In this overcast sky full of clouds, someone was urging himself to fly with all possible speed, telling himself that he needed to hurry up. It was the S-ranked hero Bright Star. At the same time, in the forest, where it was sunny, Chen Xingxuan, the daughter of Nimble Man, was in a panic looking for some kind of bracelet on the ground. A girl with pink hair tied in 2 ponytails, in a panic, said that she wanted to check if her superpowers had recovered, but lost the bracelet. At this time, she heard a sound, and turned around, shouted in shock that where these monsters came from. Quickly getting up, she began to run in panic, shouting that the monster did not approach her. Running with all her might in the forest, the girl cursed her luck, asking why she was so unlucky today. Approaching one fallen log, she bent down thinking that she would not die here. When she ducked, Jutian suddenly appeared right in front of him, carrying a girl with blue hair. Raising his head, he looked in shock at the girl flying straight at him. The girl also noticed the guy, shouted at him to get out of the way. But the guy was looking only at the girl's body approaching in his direction. The girl with the ponytails fell right on the guy, which is why all 3 fell. As a result, the guy remained pressed between the 2 girls, which made him feel incredibly soft and even thought that he was in paradise. When they got up, Xingxuan, the girl with pink hair, asked the guy for forgiveness, saying that she didn't think anyone else would be here besides her. The guy lifted the blue-haired girl back on her back and told the other girl that they didn't have time to talk, because they were surrounded. Looking at the monsters that were pressing on them from all sides, the guy said that since she was alone in this wilderness, she was probably awakened, so she could use her superpowers here. The girl looked at the guy with guilt and said that although she was awakened, she had lost her bracelet. The guy thought that some kind of ability seemed to need additional equipment to use, but still looking at the girl with disbelief, the guy asked her that she would definitely be able to kill all these monsters with this bracelet. The girl was enraged by the guy's distrust, and she screamed that as soon as she put on the bracelet, she would kill these monsters in 3 seconds. Lowering the blue-haired girl back to the ground, the boy said that this forest was too big. Looking for her bracelet here is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Privately, he turned to his master, asking her if she would help him. His teacher can't leave him in such a critical situation. Standing up, the guy told Xingxuan to forget about his bracelet. Now they are surrounded, so she should take this girl with her, and he will take care of these monsters. Then when he looked at the monster, suddenly his gaze caught on a blue bracelet that was hanging on the wooden horn of the monster. He asked the girl if she was looking for her. The girl said it was him. No wonder she couldn't find him, because the monster had him. The guy smiled and ran, saying that he trusted the girl and hoped that she would really be able to kill them all in 3 seconds. And he thought to himself that he wouldn't last longer than 3 seconds. Crashing into the monster, he somehow took out a bracelet and threw it at the girl, simultaneously counting the seconds. The girl caught the bracelet, and the monster released the vine, which began to squeeze the guy's neck. The guy in despair screamed to be rescued, and the girl wearing the bracelet, grinning, said that now they are safe, so he cannot worry. The girl raised her hand and shouted that now the guy could see what she was capable of. Monsters seized by some force flew into the air, and when the girl snapped her fingers and shouted explosion, loud scarlet explosions rang out in the sky. The guy looked with shock at the explosions that filled the whole sky and with shining eyes shouted that it was cool. It was like a firework exploded. But he saw that monsters were running towards them again and in a panic said that it was not enough, and then asked why the monsters were running here. The girl clenched her fist not very confidently, said that it didn't matter because she would turn everyone into dust. And now explosions were heard over the forest one after another, emptying the clearing in which these two were. After all, the guy, looking at the girl with admiration, said that it was incredibly powerful. Looking at the bracelet with a twinkle in his eyes, he asked about what kind of device it was and whether it could do the same. The girl blushed and shook her head, telling him not to even think, because the bracelet was specially made for her and ordinary people can't use it. The girl thought to herself that she felt bad because of the excessive use of force. Suddenly the ground shook, and the guy screamed at the top of his voice. The ground opened up right below them and they began to fall into it with a pile of debris screaming at the top of their lungs. The girl and the guy fell right into the hole. But at that time amulets flew in their direction at the direction of someone. They were helped by Dongfeng Keixu, Kingman's father. The old man, looking at the hole, asked why the girl wasn't listening to him. After that, he used the power of levitation and lifted all 3 bodies from the bottom of the moat, bringing the girl with blue hair closer to him. The old man anxiously held out his hand and asked if she had really forgotten about the rules of their family. At this time, in the headquarters of the Heroic Association, a girl with red hair looked at the gallogram with concern and asked that the energy source had disappeared. She wondered what had happened, if one of the heroes had defeated the king of the forests. The bespectacled assistant told the lady that they had not received any reports. The girl crossed her arms and said that perhaps the culprit had screamed. Then turning around, she looked at her assistant and ordered her to immediately send a research team and relax until they found the remains of the king of the forest. The assistant, of course, immediately bent over. In the forest, after a while, next to the hole, people in yellow clothes asked each other which S-class hero killed this monster. Another researcher ordered others to look for clues. Soon, one of the men in yellow found Zhu Tian and Xing Xuan lying near a stone and told his comrades that these 2 civilians needed to be taken to the hospital. A girl with long purple hair was rushing to the main city hospital. She was worried about her brother being injured. As she hurried through the corridors, she thought about why her brother had gone into the woods. Suddenly 2 guys appeared in front of her and she stopped. The blonde guy asked her that she had come to visit her brother, but it was so lonely here, so the man with black hair asked her to stay with them. The girl, of course, was furious, mentally thinking that these jerks were looking for death, and she was in a hurry. Making a pitiful face, the girl asked them if they were really going to attack a defenseless girl. The ugly man smiled and said that of course they just want to chat with her, but thinking to themselves that they were lucky to meet such a cutie today. The girl hit the guy right on the chin, shouting at him to get out of the way, and immediately ran towards the right door. When she came in, she saw a man in a bathrobe and he asked her with a sheet in his hand that she was a relative of this young man. Then he told her not to worry, because the guy had a little fatigue and that's it. Approaching the guy and grabbing his hand, she anxiously asked if her brother had such long hair. He's definitely fine. The bespectacled doctor said with concern that the results of the examination revealed nothing unusual, but she could leave him here for a couple of days if she wanted. Leaving the tent, the doctor said that he had to go and she had to take care of him. The girl turned and thanked the doctor. Sitting down next to the guy and holding his hand, she noticed with concern that all this was strange. How her brother ended up in the woods and came back unharmed. She thought to herself that if something happens to a guy, she will not forgive herself. Smiling gently, the girl said that it was time for her to go to work. Otherwise she would not be able to pay for hospital expenses. Saying that they would see each other in the evening, the girl started a poster to herself, thinking that it was very difficult to earn money. When the girl left, the guy began to lie alone in the office. His master appeared above him and told him to bend over. Then she added that it was time to start his training. The guy opened his eyes sleepily and asked about where he was and where those girls were. The girl smiled and said that they were fine and he didn't have to worry about them. Suddenly the guy got up and looking around noticed that he was in the hospital. He looked at the blonde girl with concern and asked about how long he had been out. The girl said that he was out for about half a day. Immediately jumping out of bed, the guy cautiously approached the door and said that he needed to get out of here, because if he stayed here for another couple of days, it would cost him a hell of a lot of money. Of course his master followed him. It was sunny outside and Zhu Tian was lying on the bed in one of the rooms of the skyscrapers, thinking that most likely the hospital bill was sent to his sister. He didn't know what to say to her when she returned. With concern, he thought that although he did not know how much had come out, he hoped that his sister would not be furious. At the same time, a spirit girl appeared right above him and grinned down at him and asked him why he was lying down. It's time to start practicing the path of immortality. The guy immediately stood up and said that he had lost an S-class monster and if he started cultivating, he would become a superhero. The guy noticed to himself that then his sister would not have to pay all the expenses of the family herself. The blonde spirit immediately touched the guy's forehead with the tip of her finger, which was filled with flaming spiritual power, and the guy found himself in a strange place with a huge flying palace. Looking at this strange island, the guy asked about this place. The girl said that this was a space created for her, while swirls of spiritual force appeared around the guy. The girl continued saying that he is a beginner, so he needs to move to the stage of Kai condensation as soon as possible. The guy stroking his chin asked about this stage and the girl began to lecture, saying that they would start with the basics. There were 6 stages of cultivation: Kai condensation, foundation building, golden core formation, spiritual body formation, soul generation and ascension. Improvement required a lot of effort. The transition to the next stage will be more and more difficult each time. Spreading her arms and smiling complacently, said that as soon as the guy overcomes the stage of ascension, he will become a true immortal. To go to the stage of Kai condensation, he needs to try to absorb the energy of heaven and earth and also fill his body with it. The guy with a pale face tilted his head, and seeing this, the girl awkwardly smiled and said that apparently he did not understand anything. Sighing, the girl said, "He should sit down first." The guy sat down in the form of a lotus and asked why he needed to sit down like that. Nodding, the girl told him that now he should close his eyes and feel the energy. He should feel that it is everywhere. This energy was Kai and he should absorb it into his body. The guy began to concentrate and felt the blue energy and began to absorb it. The girl, looking at him with admiration, said that he would become immortal in less than 100 years. He will serve as an excellent vessel for her. That day, the sky was filled with black clouds and thunderstorms, and lightning raged in it. Under this cloudy sky, there was also a blonde spirit, and a lot of people gathered in front of her. One of the people who was in front of everyone, apparently the leader, told Wangmu that it was time for her to give up the title of Mistress of the Heavenly Kingdom. All these years she oppressed them because they were men, so they didn't want to put up with it. The leader of these people was Zhao Yongzhengchun. Grinning, the girl said that he could not speak like that, because many themselves obeyed her. Shouting that this was not true, the guy added that today they were performing a heavenly judgment. And then he ordered everyone to go forward. The man released several clumps of purple balls towards the girl, which immediately crashed into the transparent shield that the girl released. She screamed that this action was stupid, because she was the mistress of the heavenly kingdom and its ways, she was the law here. Therefore, all the rebels must die. Having said that, the girl released a pillar of lightning. Seeing this, one of the attacking men turned to the leader with concern and said that she had cultivated for millions of years. They were definitely not her rivals. The leader with a serious face said that he had foreseen this, so they just have to follow the plan. The girl snorted, called all of them non-entities, and then asked if this was really the level of the heavenly kingdom. Suddenly, a cute laugh rang out behind the girl, and hugging the blonde by the hand, the girl with blue hair, smiling, told her that she should not be angry at these annoying men, they are not worth it. The girl has prepared heavenly wine for her sister, she should increase her power. The blonde, confused and delighted, said that it was very nice of her. Today she would destroy these men and make the heavenly kingdom a world of women. Then taking a cup of wine, she drank it, but immediately felt something broke the cup. The heavenly orchid filled her palm with spiritual power and hit the girl's chest with it, and the blonde spirit began to get out of her body. Finally, the blonde saw only the vile smile of the evil sister who was saying goodbye to her, and then her spirit flew out of her body. At the same time, the leader of the men threw a scroll in her direction, and the purple scroll began to absorb her spirit. The girl in a rage asked them that they really think they can seal her with this artifact. The leader of the men closed the scroll that absorbed the soul, grinned viciously, and said that of course it would not be able to seal it, but they found another way. Then the guy raised his hand calling for some kind of seal and said that they would send the girl into the abyss. That's how the array absorbed the scroll, and the girl's soul has been wandering the abyss ever since. After everything she had to go through to get into this dimension, she did not miss the chance to restore her physical body. In the main headquarters of the Association of Heroes, in one of the offices, a woman with red hair looked at a red gallogram, while chewing a nail and thinking that the king of the forest could not just disappear. They're definitely missing something. While the woman was thinking hard, her assistant found something among the data and turned to the girl, Tina. She blushed a little and happily said that she seemed to know who had defeated the king of the forest. Someone filmed a bright star near that place, and most likely it was he who defeated the king of the forest. After hearing the words of a friend, Tina happily said that she always knew that he was a brilliant hero. The assistant asked Tina if she had ever seen the face of a bright star. The assistant girl was wondering what he looked like. The girl folded her hands and said that the personal information of the S-rank heroes is top secret and even she does not have access to it. But then, smiling, she said that she had heard that he was very handsome and also a very good person because the money he earned goes to support schools for the unawakened. The girl was sure that the bright star was her friend's type. She also asked her friend if she wanted Tina to introduce them. The poor green-haired, embarrassed, turned around and told Tina not to joke like that. Then she looked at the reports and told Tina that she saw Chen Xingxuan on the list of victims compiled by the rescue team. Now Tina was worried and anxiously grabbed the assistant by the shoulder and shouted about what the president's daughter was doing on this list, and whether she was okay. The surprised assistant said that the records say that she was discharged from the hospital and went home. With a sigh of relief, Tina said that it was good, and then putting her palm on her head, she said that they were lucky that there was no president here. If something had happened to her daughter, she would have been furious. At this time, a girl in a pink t-shirt came into one of the apartments of high-rise buildings. She immediately asked her brother about why he left the hospital. But looking back, the girl realized that the guy was not in the common room. She went to his room and opened it and saw her brother sitting in the form of a lotus. Various things were flying around the guy, covered by his spiritual power, and he himself was concentrating with his eyes closed. The girl, surprised by things floating in the air, like books or napkins, happily asked her brother if he had awakened superpowers. The guy opened his eyes, smiled, and said that as she sees it, it is so. The guy thought to himself that her sister would not believe if he told about cultivation, so let her think so. The girl sat down next to the guy, touched a strand of the guy's hair, and said, smiling, "That's why the guy's hair became longer, because he awakened the ability." Laughing lightly, the boy nodded and said that his hair was really long now. Would his sister cut it? The girl immediately got up and ran out of the room, through that she would just take the scissors. And here the guy was sitting and the girl was cutting his hair. During the haircut, the girl asked the guy with interest that now he has superpowers, and he can transfer to a school for the awakened. The guy with discontent said that he had not recovered yet, and besides, they had nowhere to hurry. But the girl puffed out her cheeks, said that of course the sooner he did the better. There is good security there and is close to her work. If something happens, he will be able to come quickly. The girl didn't want what happened today to happen again. Sighing, the guy just agreed. In the center of the city, a desperate cry was heard asking where Zai Wang Mu was. It was a man with torn clothes and long hair. With a staff in his hand, he shouted that this dimension was too big. How could he even look for her? The man was the heavenly immortal Teibai Xingchun. The guy angrily said that that insidious bastard deserved only death, as a beautiful and graceful Zai Wang Mu cannot be worthy of the title of the Lady of the Heavenly Kingdom. Clenching his fist in a fit of anger, he broke the cane in half and shouted that when he returned the girl, he would torture that guy for hundreds of thousands of years. Suddenly something like a compass in his hand moved, and the guy was delighted to notice that it was working. In joy, the guy even cried, clenching a trembling fist and saying that he was very glad, because Zai Wang Mu was in this city. He had been wandering in the mountains for too long. In one Taoist temple on Mount Wudang, in one of the wooden huts, a girl with blue hair was sleeping on a bed, and an old man was sitting on a chair next to the bed. The girl with discomfort asked that she was at home, and the old man opened the lid of the cup, asked her if she was awake. The girl, looking at her father, asked what was wrong with the guy who was with her. The old man with discontent told her that she also chose to ask about it. If he had not arrived in time, she would have been sent to the hospital. They are Taoists. They have been hiding from the outside world for so many years, but because of her daughter's actions, they could be discovered. The girl bowed her head awkwardly and said that she had acted recklessly. The old man put the bowl on the table and said that it was good that she realized her mistake. She should never mess with outsiders again. The old man got up from his seat and continued, saying that the rescue team found the boy and she should not worry about him. He had also already taken the ancient writings that she had borrowed. As punishment, she must draw 100 talismans in seclusion. The girl humbly said that she would do it. Brushing his teeth, the guy thought that this world has never been fair. Some people born into a family of heroes inherit the abilities of both parents, and there are orphans like them without any super abilities. Such orphans, of course, appear in cases of accidents or any disasters. The guy became obsessed with superheroes since childhood. He had been watching shows with them since childhood and hoped to awaken superpowers to become the same as them. Now it was no longer just a dream. With the help of the immortality cultivation method, he got a chance to change his life and now goes to the Superhero Academy. Only after entering the gates of the academy did he see a lot of strange people. For example, a guy with krill or a guy with a burning head. Looking at them with admiration, he shouted that this is what the Superhero Academy is like. Everyone has superpowers here. Grinning, he mentally said goodbye to his former classmates, because now he is a student of the Superhero Academy. Despite this, the guy promised himself that he would visit them. Passing with the sheet, the guy saw one of the entrances and said that probably this is a registration place for newbies. Entering the room, the guy saw a teacher with glasses and a black raincoat, next to which a ball was glowing. The teacher told the students to pass a test of their abilities. The guy looked at the device in surprise and asked if he was really testing their abilities. He even became worried, thinking about whether he would discover his cultivation or not. At this time, a white car flew over the sky of the academy, followed by a black one in which Xing Xuan was sitting. The girl was looking at a hologram in which her mother was. Her mother told her that she had instructed Dr. Sam to study the problem with restoring her superpowers, so she should not create problems yet. The girl is embarrassed and awkward, said that yesterday was just an accident, and so she is careful. Then she added that she was almost there, so her mother shouldn't worry. The black car landed and was immediately surrounded by a crowd of onlookers. A satisfied girl got out of the car and wished everyone a good morning and a good day. Guys with loving eyes looking at her wished her a good morning. When the girl started to leave, one of the fans said that she was too cute. The second added that she was not only beautiful, but also very smart. Her grades are among the best. The third, with fanatical eyes, shouted that he wanted to be her dog. At the same time, a young man with green hair followed the girl, pushing others away and telling them not to get in the way. Wang Jian, looking at the girl, grinned contentedly and said that as expected from her girlfriend, she is graceful. The guy was the son of the richest man, and therefore said that when he inherits his father's property, the girl will become part of his harem. Stretching, the guy yawned with relief and said that he had finally passed everything. It remains only to wait for the results. Then he noticed Xing Xuan and thought that she was the same girl he met in the forest. He nodded to himself and decided to say hello to her. Of course, the rich kid immediately noticed Zhu Tian and said that this guy seemed to be chasing Xuan. With a sinister smile, he turned to one of the henchmen and told him to stop the guy. The guy smiled and told the boss to rely on him and let out a water jet. The water jet quickly reached the guy and completely surrounded the guy, turning into a ball into which the guy was shoved. Surprised, Zhu Tian asked about what was going on. He soon noticed the culprits and asked them who they were and why they were using superpowers on him. The rich kid told the henchman to let him go, and when the guy landed, looking down at him, he said that he was quite brave, since he dared to pursue his future wife. The guy looked at the opponent with bewilderment and asked who he was talking about. His second assistant with 2 tattoos on his cheeks answered for the rich guy. He said that the girl the guy was following like their boss. Everyone at school knows her because she is Chen Xingxuan. Standing up, the guy crossed his arms and with a serious face looking at the guy with green hair, said it didn't matter. If a girl ignores him, then this is unrequited love. And he thought to himself about that he now knows the girl's name. The first assistant, fat, displeased, told the guy that how dare he say that. And then he added that their boss is the son of the richest man in the world, and Chen Xingxuan is the daughter of the president of the Heroes Association. This couple is blessed by heaven itself. Such a speech, even the son of a rich man was penetrated, and he looked at his assistant with surprise. Laughing, he said that the guy had said well, and handed him the money, saying that this was his reward. Smiling and taking the money, the fat man immediately turned around and shouted at the guy to apologize to their boss. Then the assistant with the bandana added that the guy also had to swear that he would never approach Chen Xingxuan again. The guy, looking at them gloomily, asked what would happen if he did it. Immediately, the rich guy and all his henchmen began to use their powers. One of the henchmen began to summon green energy in the form of a ball over his hand. The second turned into some kind of demon-like creature. The third, the rich son himself, began to glow with magic circles. The fat one shouted that then the guy would know the taste of pain and used his water power, which swirled over his palm. The last of the henchmen was a tall man in armor. Immediately, crowds of onlookers gathered around and someone among them said that some fool had dared to provoke the son of the richest man. The second of the onlookers said that this guy seemed to be new here, and then he asked about that. What kind of super ability does a guy have, since he is so confident in himself? The rich guy handed over the money and said that these 3 would go and deal with him, and added that the one who would deal with the guy first, he would take with him to his villa on the island. All the henchmen immediately turned around, and the fat one thought with admiration that it was cool. He had heard that there were very beautiful maids in the boss villa. Motivation rose in the thick up, and raising his hand, he formed a goo of water and shouted that he was the first. But ahead of him, that henchman with the screams flew towards the guy, saying that the guy was his. And along with the flying guy, the guy with the tattoos also moved out. Seeing the jet of water, the guy remembered that it was he who caught him in the bubble. He jumped away from the blow. But immediately from the other side, the tattooed guy attacked him with a fist wrapped in a green aura. The guy managed to dodge this blow, thinking that after absorbing spiritual energy, his body became very light. The tattooed guy's punch smashed right into the ground where Zhu Tian was a second ago. Seeing this, the guy thought about that he had also become very agile. Was it really all because of cultivation? Immediately that demon flew at him from above, and the guy did not have time to dodge, because of which a flying guy with bat cries grabbed him and lifted him into the air, which caused Zhu Tian to swear. With a mad face, the demon lifted Zhu Tian above him and shouted that he would feel his power now. After the words, the demon threw from a height of several meters directly into the ground. Zhu Tian crashed into the ground and immediately raised dust, and the ground in that place cracked. Coughing, the whole battered guy thought that it was good that he used energy for protection. Otherwise there would be no living place left on him. The fact that the guy was unharmed shocked the demon and he could not believe it. Analyzing the whole fight, the guy with green hair thought that he had not seen Zhu Tian use his superpower, except for his speed and agility. He was also shocked that the guy was unharmed after falling from such a height, and assumed that Zhu Tian's ability was to strengthen the body. At the same time, a blonde spirit appeared next to the guy and happily crossed her arms, said that it was not bad and that he was learning fast. Clenching his fist, the guy, delighted, said that this was a rare opportunity. He wants to find out which is stronger, super abilities or cultivation. The girl arrogantly asked that this is an abomination and is called super abilities, and thought to herself that she needed to show this guy the difference between cultivation and this abomination. Then she turned to the guy, telling him that he should see the energy coming from them. Then he should feel it as spiritual energy and try to control it. The guy nodded and said that he would try. Then, raising his hand, he urged the opponents to attack him all at once without wasting his time. Of course, this enraged all three opponents and they clenched their teeth and attacked the guy. Zhu Tian folded his hands in some kind of seal and shouted, "Now!" A blinding light appeared between his hands, and now all the opponents were in a water bubble screaming in despair. Most of all, the fat one was shocked and turning pale. He asked why the guy was using his superpowers. The guy in the face of the opponent only grinned maliciously, but inwardly, he was delighted to the shine in his eyes, and asked the teacher how it happened at all. The girl smugly said that this is the difference between self-improvement and super abilities. Super abilities work using the energy of the owner's body to affect their surroundings, just like a magnet attracts metal. Raising her finger, the girl wisely continued, saying that, on the other hand, self-improvement works by using their consciousness to control things around them and making it, as it were, part of his hand. The guy happily clenched his fist and said that it was amazing. The girl folded her hands in a cross, said with seriousness that the materialization of their consciousness requires a lot of spiritual energy, and with the current supply of spiritual energy, the guy's capabilities are extremely small. The guy scratched his head and smiled stupidly, said that then he would continue to train no matter how later. For now, it's enough that he can beat them. A rich kid and that giant in golden armor were still standing against the guy, and looking at them. The guy asked about who else wanted to fight him. Someone from the crowd of onlookers admiringly asked him who he was and said that it was just awesome. The second of the onlookers supported his colleague, saying that the guy so easily defeated people with superpowers. The third onlooker excitedly said that he had heard of him before and asked about whether he could be the secret son of the S-class. At this time, the guy with green hair with a mad fire looked at the guy, said that he admits that he is very strong, but he still advised him to immediately apologize to the rich son and break off all relations with Chen Xingxuan. Clenching his fist and smiling maliciously, he used a magic circle nearby, adding that otherwise he would make the guy regret that he came to this school. The guy with the green hair thought to himself that no matter what kind of super abilities a guy has, they will be useless in front of his eye of the future. Zhu Tian grinned, took a fighting pose and filled the leading hand with spiritual power, said that these were his words. While these two were about to start a fight, suddenly a cute shout was heard from the side ordering them to stand still. It was the girl who started it all. Looking at them, the pink-haired one said that fighting with the use of super abilities on the school grounds is prohibited. They should all go with them to the student council. After her words, the girl noticed Zhu Tian, who awkwardly raised his hand to greet her. Seeing him, the girl thought that this guy did not have super abilities. But then how did he get into school and get into a fight? Pointing to the rich son, she said sternly that according to the rules of the school, bullying those who do not have super abilities is also prohibited. And therefore today they will call the parents of the rich son. The guy with the pale green hair backed away, telling the girl to wait a second, and then said that it couldn't be that this brat didn't have super abilities. Immediately, an awkwardly smiling guy appeared next to the surprised girl, and smiling stupidly, said that the guy was right. We can say that Zhu Tian has a super ability. Besides, he's new to this school, so he asked her to forget about this incident. The girl, looking at the guy, asked that he was here recently, and then nodding, said that this time she would close her eyes. But next time the guy would not get away with it so easily, and the girl thought to herself that the guy knows what she is losing his super abilities, so he needs to be shut up. Turning to the two still standing, she ordered them to be taken to the student council, and then, smiling, took the guy by the hand and said that he was coming with her. The guy was surprised by this and therefore asked why, and where she was dragging him. The girl didn't say anything, just ran. But then she turned around and smiled and said that he was new here, so she would give him a tour. And so in the club room, the guy stood in front of the touching girl and asked what she was doing. Wasn't she going to show him everything here? Approaching the guy closely, the girl said that they could talk about it later, but now there are much more important things to do. The guy, hearing the words of the girl, blushed and looked at the dignity of the girl, asking what she meant and what other important things. The girl, noticing the guy's look, immediately recoiled and, blushing all over, said in a panic that she didn't mean anything. She just wanted him not to tell anyone about what happened in the forest. The guy, not understanding what she was talking about, asked why he shouldn't tell, because she was cool then. The girl, confused by the guy's revelation, screamed at him to just keep quiet about that day. The guy made a wise look and said that she was one of those who like to stay in the shadows. Suddenly, some guy with green hair opened the door with a pump, calling some bro, hit Yu-Tian with the door, which caused the guy to fall right on the girl and accidentally touched her lips with his, and they both fell to the ground in a not very good position. At this time, the bespectacled man who came and started looking for someone without understanding where she was and suddenly saw a girl and a guy lying on the ground. Stunned, he immediately ran away from the class with a sling of forgiveness for what he had placed. As he ran, he asked himself with a pale face whether it was not his imagination, because Xing Xuan was with some guy in the club room. It should be sensational, and therefore he should tell everyone about it. At this time, the embarrassed girl pushed the guy away, shouting for him to get off her. The guy was also confused and said in a panic that he didn't do it on purpose. The girl, pressing her back against the door, said threateningly that she would kill the guy if he tells anyone at least about what happened here. Turning around with tears, the girl once again threw that if he took a chance, then he was a corpse, and she thought that she had to stop the guy who saw them. She couldn't let him go around gossiping. The guy stood in shock, looking at his hands and saying that it was awesome. Soon the girl caught up with the bespectacled man and, using the force of the water, tied him into something like a bubble of that fat man. Approaching him, she with an evil face and a gloomy voice told the guy to forget about what he had just seen. Otherwise he would not be well. The guy got scared, immediately bowed, shouted for mercy and added that he had already forgotten everything. In the student council hall, a man in a black tuxedo and a samurai hairstyle, looking at the three culprits, asked the rich son for forgiveness and said that they could not do anything since it was the president's order, so the guy hoped that Mr. Wang would be able to understand everything. Chuckling, the guy with green hair said that it looked like the truth. The guy with the samurai hairstyle smiled broadly and said that if he needed his help, he should not be shy and ask him. Wang clenched his fist and teeth, said that the student council should be able to get a list of students who passed the entrance tests today. The guy in the tuxedo immediately started looking, said that of course, the management system of the student council is connected to the training system. Soon he found Yu-Tian and showed the hologram to Mr. Wang. When they looked at the characteristics of the guy, they both shouted in shock that he had an S class. The green-haired man, looking at the scoreboard with disbelief, asked how it was possible. The device must have failed or he cheated. The guy from the student council said that there should also be an assessment report from the test teacher in the back. The bespectacled teacher said that although the type of superpower of the student was not analyzed, but the level of strength in the guy's body would be found to be extremely high. Therefore, the system automatically gave him an S rank. Putting his hand on his chin, the fat man asked that since that guy got the S rank, wouldn't he be assigned to the Xing Xuan class? This of course did not please Mr. Wang, and he immediately shouted, asking if they could manipulate the data. He wants the guy kicked out of school. The guy in the tuxedo shook his head regretfully and said there was nothing they could do. The student council can only view the results. Clenching his fist, the green-haired guy with a gloomy aura and a villainous grin thought to himself that it didn't matter anyway, because there would still be many opportunities to throw him out. On one of the highways of the city, a red-haired guy was followed by a black-haired beauty. She has already said in the earphone that the target is confirmed. This guy Stark is a wanted criminal of S rank. The girl was the hero of a rank, Kang Lan. The red-haired star, inhaling the air, said that the fragrance of tranquility was disgusting and he wanted to destroy everything. His eyes were already red and his veins were swollen. Slapping his forehead, the guy in the mask said to himself that he should calm down, because now he has more important things to do. Suddenly he felt something and looked to the side and saw a man hiding behind a pillar. A taxi stopped in front of the guy and the driver asked him if he needed a ride. Slapping the taxi, the villain with an evil aura emitted gloomily asked how dare some non-entity talk to him. Opening the mask from which purple tentacles came out, the guy said that he would teach this fat man manners. The fat man wanted to scream in fear, but tentacles wrapped around his mouth. Of course, Kang Lan also noticed this and thought about what that guy was doing. Pushing people away, she asked them to disperse and soon reached a taxi, but the villain was no longer there. Looking into the driver's seat, she slapped the taxi with a gloomy face and said that she had lost it. Clenching her teeth, the girl said that he did it again, at the same time, right behind her. The villain, wearing a hood, looked at her with a bloodthirsty look, snorting to himself that the pathetic hero of a rank wants to catch him. In a high-rise building, Zhu Tian came into one of the rooms reading some paper and happy, saying that the results of the entrance exam appeared so quickly and he was assigned to class sitting down in front of the table in the common room. He happily said that Yunshu would be very happy when she came home and saw them. Standing up, he said that as long as he was free, he should use this opportunity to cultivate. He should get to the Kai purification stage as soon as possible. After some time of cultivation, the guy opened his eyes and clenched his fist with a puzzled question about why he did not feel any Kai. At this time, a spirit master appeared nearby and said that it was rare when she saw him so diligent, and then added that yesterday, when the guy was cultivating, he absorbed all the nearby Kai in one fell swoop. The girl hugged the guy, said that if the guy wants to do cultivation, he needs to go to a place where nature is well preserved, like in the forest where he was last time. The guy, confused by the teacher's actions, asked that he had to go through so many difficulties to absorb Kai. The girl smiled contentedly and said that in fact, the Kai that the guy absorbed yesterday, she had collected in the forest in advance. She couldn't risk the guy finding it too difficult and deciding not to study. The guy, realizing that he was deceived, trembled all over, saying that it was all a trick. Suddenly the doorbell rang, and the guy got up with interest and asked who it could be, because his sister should be at work right now. Looking at the doorbell, the guy saw a strange guy who looked like a homeless man with his torn clothes. In addition, he smiled strangely and said that he was nearby and was inside. The guy opened the door with an unreadable expression on his face, and the homeless man immediately pounced on him with a hug along with tears and snot, saying that it was a miracle that he finally found him. Of course, Zhu Tian was shocked by this. The homeless man shouted that he had been looking for her for a long time. That is, Vesti. The guy in shock began to push this homeless man away from himself, shouting that he let him go. Who is this bum in general? Doesn't he know that you can't hug people like that? When the homeless man resisted without letting him go, the guy went berserk and kicked him in the jaw, shouting that he said to let him go. The homeless man flew away from the guy and crashed into the wall, and the guy, seeing this, apologized, but said that he himself forced the guy to do it. At this time, the spirit girl came out and looked at the homeless man with surprise, said that it was no wonder that the voice was so familiar, and then she asked that homeless man what he was doing here, calling him by. The guy awkwardly scratched his nose and asked if he was a friend of the master. The girl, too, awkwardly smiling, said that it was possible to say so, and the homeless man, or rather Bai, stood up, still crying, hugged the girl, saying that he had finally found her. The girl seriously looked at the spirit of this homeless man, told him to stop being such a crybaby, because by doing so, he makes a fool of himself. Since he was here, the girl asked him if he knew where the girl's physical body was and if there was a way to get it back. Bai awkwardly averted his eyes and said that he had used a medicinal pill to bribe Star-Lord Beidou to secretly open a spatial portal for him. He hurried into this world to save the girl and forgot how to return. Of course, this revelation infuriated the girl, and kicking him in the face, the girl screamed that he was an idiot. What was the point of looking for her then? It seems that Bai himself liked the mockery, so he was happy under the girl's foot, told her not to worry. Now her spirit has become one with this guy. She must rely on him to recreate her physical body. From now on, Bai will help the guy in cultivation and prepare all the necessary pills for him. The girl, grinning maliciously, said that with Bai's pills, the guy's cultivation speed would grow by leaps and bounds. Of course, this whole conversation took place between the souls of a girl and a homeless man, which is why Zhu Tian, who did not hear them, suspiciously asked them why they were looking at each other and not talking. Bai with a black eye smiled and said that the guy's house is pretty big and beautiful. The guy asked what he wanted to say, and Bai hugged the guy by the shoulder, said that from now on they would be one family. The guy threw Bai into the street, and he closed the door and went into the house, saying that they were not relatives, and therefore he would not leave him in his house. Bai immediately excitedly, knocking, said that he would not stay here for free. he would prepare him all the pills that the guy would need for his cultivation. Sitting down in a chair, the guy looked at the master, who told him that he should let Bai stay. Bai is good at making all kinds of medicinal pills and he will be very useful to the guy during cultivation. The guy leaning on the sofa said that his house is not a shelter for the homeless. Besides, even if he allowed it, his sister wouldn't agree. Bai still didn't despair and took out a bottle of pills and shouted that at the current cultivation rate of the guy, it would take him at least 1.5 years to go to the Kai purification stage. But if he just absorbed this pill that Bai has, he would be able to immediately go to the Kai purification stage. The guy opened the door with a serious face, said that Bai did not think that the guy would believe him. His foundation is unstable now and this bum wants to give him a pill. What the hell is he up to? Bai said with self-praise that his pill was not exactly for the guy to reach the stage of Kai purification in an instant. After the reception, she will help Zhu Tian adjust his breathing and she is suitable for beginners. After that, Bai also took out a black robe and said that this Taoist robe was the supreme spiritual treasure of their heavenly kingdom. If he lets Bai stay, the guy will have these 2 things. In a moment, all of Bai's things disappeared from his hand and the guy said that he would reluctantly accept his mystical treasure and pill. But despite this, he put Bai outside. Of course, this shocked the long-haired guy. Inside the house, the spirit girl looked at the guy with incomprehension and said that he took his spiritual treasures and pill, so why did he leave him outside? The guy scratching his nostrils said that it was all nonsense. He thought that the guy's offering was too cheap, so let him wait a little. So an hour passed and finally Bai found himself inside the apartment, in the living room. Looking at him seriously, Zhu Tian said that from now on, he would sleep on the floor in Zhu Tian's own room, and his range of movements would be limited to his room and living room. After this long speech, the guy, looking like a demon, told Bai that he should never approach the guy's sister's room. Bai awkwardly raised his hands and said that he understood everything that way. The guy looked at the pill bottle and asked about it. That this pill is really as effective as that bum said. While Zhu Tian was thinking about it, Bai himself told him that he had not washed for a long time, so he would take the bathroom. And when Zhu Tian wanted to take a purple spiritual pill, he was stopped by a spirit girl. The guy looked at the master and she said that if he wanted to refine this pill, he could do it, but not here. He has to go to the forest. Only with the blessing of spiritual energy, the effect of the pill can be maximized. The guy raised an eyebrow and said that there was no bus to Mount Yuden, and it would be very expensive to take a taxi there. The girl approached the guy in a tight and lightly touching his cheek, which made him blush, said that this problem was easy to solve. As his teacher, she will teach him a unique flying skill. This will make the guy float freely in the air. After these words, the girl called the guy to the roof. Already standing on the edge of the roof, the guy looked down and asked if he could really fly. He's not going to die. The girl hovering nearby told him not to worry. If he follows her instructions, he'll be fine. The guy put his hand in the seal and began to concentrate spiritual power throughout his body, and told him to take off. And now, overjoyed, he noticed that he was hovering over the roof. The girl took his hand and said that they should fly, because his sister is coming back at 10, so they should hurry. The guy of course agreed. Looking at the beautiful lights of the night city, the guy said that the technique of immortality is really amazing. After a while, they reached the forest and landed on one stone. She said that this place is very rich in spiritual energy, so they done will stop here. Afterward, the girl told the guy that the pill had been refined and purified by her divine power Xian Zai. Unlike ordinary pills, the energy does not mix. The guy can absorb it without worrying that it will affect his shell. The trick to purifying a pill is to use spiritual energy to transform the energy inside the pill. While the girl was talking, the guy had already sat down in the lotus position and started cultivating, which is why the spiritual force began to gather. The girl, seeing this, continued her instructions. She told the guy to use his spiritual energy to activate the pill and transform as much energy inside it as possible. The more it is transformed and assimilated over a certain period of time, the better the result will be. Soon, a light appeared on the guy's forehead, and the spiritual force around him began to flow even more smoothly. Feeling the warmth, the guy relaxed even more. The power of the pill spread through his body, and every time he improved a little, the power in his body became stronger. Soon he opened his eyes and saw that he was in a strange space, in the center of which there was a green ball, and a spirit girl was floating in front of the guy. Looking at all this, the guy asked how he got here and what kind of ball it was. The girl smiled, put one hand in the other and said that this ball contains a monster that the guy absorbed earlier. Now he can try to purify it with his spiritual energy. Inside the ball stood a miniature king of the forest and shouted to be released or asked about what kind of place it was. Soon the energy around the monster began to swirl somehow, and the monster asked what was going on. A whirlwind of green spiritual energy engulfed the monster and soon it turned into some kind of leaf similar to a hairpin. When this happened, in reality, a column of blue glow rose from the guy sitting in meditation to the top and the girl congratulated him on his breakthrough into the cultivation stage. At the same time, in another part of the forest, near the crater, a man was standing and looking at the crater. He said there was definitely something wrong with the information they received from the Heroes Association. Judging by the scene of the incident, a battle of this magnitude could not destroy the Forest King to such an extent that nothing was left of him. If someone wanted to get rid of the Forest King so that he disappeared without leaving a trace, the only way to do this was to use spatial superpowers. Looking at this with a gloomy face, the red-haired guy said that without the remains of the Forest King, the organization plan would be postponed again. At the same time, a column of blue light appeared not far away, and turning there, the villain sensed a person. The guy in the hood went that way and soon saw the guy sitting in the lotus position and meditating. The villain said that it was really a base creature, and immediately with a bloodthirsty jerk went in his direction, saying that the mission could not be completed. But he wants to have some fun with that guy. The guy was unlucky to meet him. The moment he was behind Zhu Tian, he prepared to swing his fist, telling the guy to die. But the guy noticed him a moment before the villain attacked and immediately slapped him in the face and, strengthening his arm, sent the villain flying. The villain flew with great speed towards the trees raising dust and soon crashed into something that caused a huge amount of dust to rise. Looking at this, Zhu Tian said in shock that who was this guy and why he suddenly attacked him. And what about the attack power of the guy himself? Has it really become so great? The same question was asked by the villain who barely got up from his seat. The mask he was wearing collapsed and his true face appeared. Grinning with his teeth, the villain said that this guy looked weaker than the C-class heroes. And how dare he cause such pain to the villain? The villain could not forgive him and filling her claws with power, she screamed that she would kill that guy and attacked him. The guy managed to jump away, and right in flight asked the villain who the hell he was and why he was trying to kill the guy. The villain's blow crashed into the ground, which caused the ladder to open up. But the villain did not stop and leaning his hands on the ground, made a chopper out of his legs right when Zhu Tian landed on the ground. But still the guy managed to duck and not get hit by the villain. The villain shouted that the lower beings did not deserve to know his name, and thought to himself that a minute ago, he was too careless. Now he's going to show this guy his true strength. With these thoughts, he began to move very quickly and push off from the ground and trees, thereby accelerating himself even more. Zhu Tian, of course, witnessed this madness and finally the enemy immediately attacked from 5 sides with lightning speed. And Zhu Tian, due to the fact that he could not see the enemy, could only stand in a defensive posture and block vital points. Looking at the strengthening of the villain, Zhu Tian wondered how this guy became so fast. And finally, the guy failed to block one of the villain's strong kicks, which caused him to fly towards the wall and crash into him, imprinting his body in the wall. The villain shouted that he was only capable of this. The guy coming out from behind the wall and wiping the bruise in his face asked his master why it was so difficult for him to defend himself now if earlier he had already been able to dodge this guy's attack. A spirit girl appeared next to him and said that when he entered the cultivation stage, he caused the power of heaven and earth to resonate. That's why he became so powerful. But now that resonance is over, nodding, the guy anxiously asked his master if she could teach him some fighting techniques. Otherwise, he won't be able to beat this guy. The girl folded her arms under her chest and said that the guy would not be able to study too complex techniques for a while. And then the girl had an idea and she told the guy about it. One day, she discovered a great immortal technique that could be perfect for him right now. The guy asked with interest what kind of technique it was and the girl, without saying anything, grabbed the guy by the face, which caused him to blush deeply, but the girl only kissed him on the head, passing the technique through spiritual energy. After putting her index finger on her lips, the girl said that this technique is called a finger-piercing clouds. It allows the guy to instantly gather spiritual energy around him and release it, creating a powerful and destructive force. It's simple and powerful. The girl put this knowledge into the guy's head because he already had to learn it. The guy is still red as a tomato, said he learned it. At the same time, they saw something fly up into the sky. This something was a villain, and aiming in the direction of the guy, he began to collect energy in the palm of his hand in the shape of a ball. The villain, with a twinkle in his eyes, said that once the kid caught him, but his life would end here. At this time, closing his eyes, he began to condense the air on his fingertips, and soon opening his eyes, he looked in the direction of the villain, aiming with his index finger, from which a huge amount of spiritual energy emanated. Grinning, the guy told the villain to catch the energy. Both simultaneously released beams of energy, and the red ray of the villain crashed halfway into the bluish ray of the guy. The guy's beam easily overcame the enemy's beam, and the villain was shocked to find that the beam was about to crash into him. The ray erasing the villain did not stop there and flew further into the sky, seeing beyond the orbits of the planet. The guy pathetically removed his hand, thought that the power of this immortal technique is great, because it even left a hole in the sky. The girl immediately hugged the guy by the shoulder and happily said that she was sure that the guy would be able to do it. She really wasn't wrong about him. The guy is pinched, said he couldn't breathe, and at that time his phone rang. Opening the phone, he saw that it was already 23, and in shock he said that it was too late. He'll be in trouble for being late. They immediately went towards the house. At the same time, in the guy's house, sitting in the living room, the guy's sister and Bai were playing cards. One put a 6, and the second an ace, and now the girl opened up showing 4 deuces. And then she happily ducked, saying that she had won, but Bai was pale looking at the cards. Bai sulked with displeasure and crossed his arms, said that it didn't count. He added that mortals have the advantage of playing games of their own invention. But now that the guy finally realized it, he decided to challenge one more time. The girl, delighted, immediately began to fold the cards with lightning speed and, grinning, said that she could beat him as much as she wanted. The guy witnessed it and said he was back, wondering to himself that the two got along well. Laughing, the girl clenched her fists and said that his brother's friend was very stupid. She had defeated him so many times today. Smiling awkwardly, the guy said that he forgot to discuss it with her in advance. Xiao Bai will be staying with them for a while, so he asked his sister if she was against it. The girl smiled and hugged the guy by the hand and asked why she should be against it. She said it's fun when there are more people in the house. Privately, the girl thought that this was the first time her brother invited a friend to their house and she should hold him. At this time, Bai smiled nastily with the cards in his hands, told the handsome man to take care of him. The guy noticed the guy's clothes, thought about Xiao Bai wearing his father's clothes. His father and mother's room had been locked for so long, and it looked like the door had finally been opened today. Somewhere in the West China Sea, on one rock, there was one building. There was thunder and lightning. Several people gathered inside this building, and one of them informed his boss sitting at the head that the mission to restore Stark seemed to have failed. The boss, who had a short red beard and predatory teeth, said that this place is the headquarters of the Association of Heroes, but it is still very difficult to recover the remains. Then he looked away with interest and asked what suddenly happened. A girl in a raincoat and with big glasses said that her power is the tree of life. Whoever eats the seeds of her power, she will be able to determine the current location of the pest. But it looks like he has completely lost his vital signs. Leaning back in his chair, the boss said that the guys from the Heroes Association were trying to ruin his day again. The man earnestly told them to send it to the King of the Depths. It was time to show them what happens when someone goes against them. The next day, the sun was shining at the academy. In one of the classes, a girl with short pink hair told her friends that she had heard that a new student had been transferred to their class today. And then the girl asked her friends if they knew who this man was. One of the friends with blue hair screamed that she knew. She was there yesterday. This guy was so handsome. He was easily able to win 1 against 5. The girl, confused and excited, added that she also knows that, according to rumors, this guy studied at school without supernatural abilities. Yesterday he took first place in the freshman class. The second girl, with a loving look, clenching her fist in disbelief, said that this could not be. Such a great and handsome guy transferred to their class. She definitely should get him. The short-haired woman, looking at the black-haired one, told her not to even think about it. After all, there are rumors that he is already with Xing Xuan. Yesterday, she saw him leaving with Xing Xuan, and she didn't even talk about how intimate it was. This conversation was also heard by another girl in the class. She thought with surprise that Xing Xuan has someone she likes, and it seems that this person is very powerful. Xia Zhaikai couldn't miss such a good opportunity. As long as Xing Xuan has something to lay her eyes on, it should be hers, Xia Zhaikai. It was time for the lesson, and in the classroom, a blue-haired female teacher introduced a new student, saying that this was the newcomer in their class, Zhu Shuntian. The guy stood at the blackboard quietly listening to the teacher, and when she finished, with his arms crossed, He loudly proclaimed that his name was Zhu Shuntian and he was a man who wanted to become an S-class hero. Xing Xuan, who was sitting in the classroom looking at the guy, thought that this guy has considerable ambitions. But it's not so easy to become an S-class hero. The teacher glanced in the direction of the girl, said that there was an empty seat next to her, the guy could sit there. When the guy was walking to his place, one of the students in strange clothes with a spirit thought about whether this guy really has superpowers, because his ghost did not feel anything from him. After some time, a new blonde teacher appeared in front of the blackboard and slapped a stick on the blackboard and said that today's lesson was a practical exercise on monsters. Then she turned to Xing Xuan, saying that she had the best grades, so she should take responsibility for the new student today. On the other hand, a hand was raised and a girl with purple hair tied in a ponytail turned to the teacher, saying that he, too, would like to meet a new classmate. Therefore, can she be in the same group with him? And she was being sarcastic to herself, saying that Xing Xuan would still watch her take her boyfriend away right in front of her. The teacher said that it rarely happens that a classmate takes the initiative to help a new student, so she doesn't mind if the girl is in the same group with the guy. One of the guys in the class asked a friend who this guy was and how it happened that two of their classmates volunteered to team up with him as soon as he joined them. His friend held his friend, saying that he was jealous of that guy, and then the third student added that he was the illegitimate son of some rich man or S-class hero, or something. The green-haired guy was watching all this, and he didn't like it. Dissatisfied, he said that this guy was making a name for himself again. He definitely had to teach him a lesson. The teacher clapped her hands and told everyone to be quiet and get ready to go to the practice field. A field for practice, it was a strange field in a cubic shape. Having brought the students here, the teacher asked them to take their places in the appropriate zones. Looking around uneasily, the guy thought that there was very little spiritual energy in this place. He didn't know if he could use his cloud-piercing finger. While he was thinking, Jaizia grabbed his hand smiling and greeted him, telling him that he was the sun. The guy looked at her with a question and she said that her name was Jaizia, and she was pleased to meet him. The girl smiling said that he was so cool yesterday, she was there. The guy laughed and said that everything was kind of so-so. At this time, Xing Xuan appeared from the other side and pointed at the girl and said that he should not believe her nonsense, because she did not even come yesterday. The girl looked at her rival with an accusing look, said that how could she so falsely accuse someone? It's so low. Snuggling up to the guy, the girl added that he should believe her. She was really there and saw everything. On the other hand, Xing Xuan snuggled up to the guy, telling Jaizia to leave him while she was here, because she wouldn't let her fool him. The guy himself, being between two fires, was both confused and delighted and even excited. The girls, looking at each other, let lightning out of their eyes, and when they finished, they both turned to the guy. Jaizia asked the guy if he believed her, and Xing Xuan in turn also asked if he believed her or Xing Xuan. The guy didn't know what to say, and his salvation was that the teacher turned to them and said that the exercise would start soon, so they should get ready. Sighing with relief, the guy mentally thanked the teacher for avoiding these showdowns. Soon a black ball appeared in one of the zones in height and began to attract energy. Such balls appeared in each zone, and the zone in which there was a guy and two girls was no exception. Xing Xuan looked at the black ball and asked what kind of monster they were going to fight. Jaizia replied that the monsters are random and each group has different ones. After some time, tentacles emerged from the ball, followed by the head of a one-eyed monster. It was an octopus with an icy spine. He had C-level abilities, namely freezing, illusion, and regeneration. Xing Xuan, looking at the monster with concern, said that she hated him the most. The monster released a jet of cold energy in their direction, which froze the place where all three students were a second ago. The guy grabbed Xing Xuan and jumped to the left, and Jaizia jumped to the right. The guy, grinning, holding the girl on his hand, told her to give him a try and began to concentrate energy on the tip of his finger. The guy shouted the name of the technique, namely the finger piercing the clouds, and released a ray of energy. But did a small stream come out that crashed into one of the tentacles immediately disappeared. The girls looked at him with obvious disgust, saying that this was all. The guy himself was also embarrassed and sweated from embarrassment. Wiping his sweat, he thought that in this isolated space with weak spiritual energy, this ability works very poorly. The octopus, looking down at them, was furious and released a crushing pressure. He waved one of the tentacles in the direction of the girl and the guy, but they managed to jump away in different directions, and Xing Xuan said irritably that these tentacles were already boring her. The guy quickly went in the other direction, thinking that since he couldn't use his finger piercing the clouds, then he would be able to fight the monster up close. Concentrating all the spiritual forces in space into a finger, he cut the tentacle of the octopus with it when it sent it towards the guy. The guy shouted that he would cook takoyaki from him today. Xingqian, clutching her head gloomily, said that he was an idiot. Didn't he know that cutting off the tentacles of an octopus was forbidden? This is a well-known fact from monstermology. Smoke rose from the monster, and the guy who was next to the monster asked what kind of fog it was. Then he noticed that there were even more tentacles. Xingqian grabbed the guy with a superpower, calling him back. Then she told the guy that as soon as you cut off the tentacle of the octopus, he will activate his skill Ghost Fog, and it will be much more difficult to attack him again. After the fog cleared, 4 monsters appeared in front of them at once, which is why the girl asked about how so many of them suddenly appeared. At this time, Jizia ran next to the guy with a jerk, saying that the guy had a great attack, but he should not do this anymore. The girl put on some kind of mask, smiled, said that the time of the test is limited, now there is no time to waste. Then she told Xingqian to leave the monsters to her. Taking out the dagger, the girl activated the shadow killing mode and very quickly reached the octopus, at the same time saying that by attacking the weak points of the octopus, you can get rid of these phantoms. The girl in a second began to attack monsters from all sides and corners, and the monsters did not have time to do anything. Finding the real Jizia, bent down on him, aiming straight at the golden eye, and hit him. But unfortunately for her, this octopus also disappeared in the fog, and the girl realized that he was fake. The tentacles grabbed her, which caused her to scream with tears in her eyes, and then the octopus exploded and the girl flew away. At the same time, a speaking announcement was heard, that there are 30 seconds left until the end of the training, so the students should hurry up. Xingqian, raising her hand, caused an explosion of reason, which caused the octopus to explode even more. The guy looked at the girl and asked about what she had just said, that he should not attack the tentacles, so why is she blowing them up herself now? The girl, without distracting herself from the calls of explosions, said that the illusory fog skill had worked, and therefore the situation would not get worse if it was bombed. And his weakness is in his eye. If they destroy the core of the eye, the monster will die. Now they don't have time to look for a real body, so she just needs to blow them all up. The explosions did not stop, but to the surprise of the girl, the tentacles broke out of the fog and flew towards the girl and grabbed her boyfriend along with her. Jizia was also captured, which caused the area to be filled with the screams of the girls. Jizia asked in disbelief how the octopus could have become so big. He used the illusion skill to make the girls underestimate his strength or something. They announced again that there were 10 seconds left until the end of the training, and Xingqian said that of course they had failed the test. The guy cut the tentacles, smiled, and told them not to despair because there is still enough time. Last night, on the way home, the guy asked the master, saying that the finger piercing the clouds requires the use of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to form a stream and then send it out. But what should he do if the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is very small? The master replied that if he would use his own energy to use the energy of heaven and earth to apply the technique, he would not only be able to preserve his own spiritual energy as much as possible, but he would also have tremendous strength. Exactly the same way the guy he just left did it. He will probably be able to display all the might of an S-class hero in this world with his current strength. However, after using this technique, the surrounding spiritual energy will be depleted and it is difficult to restore it in a short time. If the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is weak or absent, sometimes a guy will have to use his own spiritual energy to apply the technique. This method takes away a large amount of his own spiritual energy, so he has to be careful. With his current strength, he can use a finger piercing the clouds. The force must be equal to the full impact force of the A-rank hero. Collecting spiritual energy, the guy thought to himself that fortunately, these two helped him to stall for time. So he slowly accumulated his spiritual energy, although the energy here is small, but it is all concentrated. Smiling, the guy took aim and said that he would show him his real strength. Then he said the name of the technique. A blue ray came out of his finger, which pierced through the octopus's head, which caused the octopus to let go of the girls and began to fall himself. Seeing this, the guy thought that it looked like it was enough. At the same time, other students were looking at the hole in the ceiling, asking who did it, who released such a destructive force. Another student said that this power is close to the strength of the Class A heroes. Xingqian happily hugged the guy from behind and said he was amazing. She couldn't believe that he had killed the monster in one move. Jizia was also impressed and said she didn't expect Shuntian to have such a trick up his sleeve. They immediately announced to the students that the tests were over and asked them to gather in the study area. The results were wrapped on a huge blackboard, and the students looked at the results with admiration and said that the ideal result was in Group D, of course. This is worthy of the group, which was led by the two best students. Another student said that the beginner was really lucky, and someone else added that he got not only two beautiful girls, but also an excellent result. A green-haired man approached the guy and, pointing at the guy, grinning, said that he had settled in well. I got the best result thanks to the help of two girls. The guy grinned and said that envy really makes people behave differently. The rich son just grinned and said that their last match was not over yet. Would he dare to play another game with him? It will take place at this training ground in 3 days. If the guy loses, he has to get out of school forever, whether he agrees. The guy grinned and asked what if he won. The green-haired man said that if the guy wins, he will kneel down and call him daddy 3 times. In one room, Hero Aranga listened to the news through a holographic TV. The news said that just last night, a strange light suddenly appeared in the forest of Mount Wudang. Many people have shared the photos they posted online. The news continued, saying that some netizens are suggesting that this is related to the Forest King, an S-class monster that attacked the city some time ago. In response to this phenomenon, they invited a famous scientist. The girl who was eating noodles after hearing about the S-class monster immediately raised her head and swallowed the noodles. Contacted Marin. She asked her to help her find out if there were any serious incidents in the city where Stark appeared in recent months. After she got the consent, the girl got up from her seat and said that, whatever it was at first, she would go to the forest. In the middle of the night, a black motorcycle rode among the shas. While Kanglan was driving towards the mountain, she was contacted and told that the results of the investigation she had requested had already been received. Stark has visited several cities where there have been S-class monster attacks, and all of them occurred before he went there. Laughing, the girl said that her guess was correct. Stark Kesaru's organization is working on merging humans and monsters. Perhaps O is trying to recover the remains of the Forest King. There must be clues there. In the afternoon the weather was fine, and in one of the buildings Shun Tian went into the apartment saying that he had returned. Soon he saw Bai, who had arranged a workplace for himself. The guy turned to his master, saying that there are too many restrictions on using the piercing cloud finger. If her technique is better, hitting the guy on the head. The girl said that there are no quick solutions for studying immortal techniques. When a guy reaches the foundation stage, there will be more spiritual energy in his body and he will not have such problems anymore. The guy approached Xiao Bai and asked him if he still had a pill that made him cultivate quickly like last time. The guy said to give him pills if there are any. The guy with long hair took out 2 pills and said that rapid cultivation pills can only be taken in a special place or at a low level. He has several fire spirit pills that can increase the strength of the guy's techniques in a short time. And he also has a soul-saving pill that can heal his wounds quickly. He can take them and use them as needed. Taking the bottle, the guy said that it was better than nothing. Then he added that it was too late, so he had better hurry up and go to the forest to absorb spiritual energy. At the same time, in the forest, Kang Lan, seeing the red-haired villain, shouted that Stark was arrested. She ordered her minion to release a beam in his direction, and Stark barely dodged the beam, thinking that this was his unluckiest day. Not only did it take him half a day to recover his body, but now he is being chased by this woman. Stark very quickly recovered from the hero's shots while approaching her and reaching her. He bent up with a gloomy face and shouted that he was in a very bad mood, so she would have to die here. The girl put a block with a metal hand, but she felt that the opponent had a very powerful force. Kicking, the guy cursed the kid and thought that if he met him, he would definitely cut him into pieces. The villain's blow fell on the hero, which caused her to be thrown back, and she broke a tree along the way. After breaking the girl's pet, Stark asked the girl if she wanted to defeat him with this toy. It's just scrap metal. The girl got up from her seat and started charging her mechanized arm, and raising it screamed, releasing a yellow glow from her hand. The pressure shackled the surprised Stark, and he clenched his teeth and thought that he had just recovered his body. But his strength had not yet recovered, but fortunately it was raining and he could still use one trick. The guy began to concentrate purple energy in his hand and released a deadly energy tornado towards the girl. The beam of light released by the girl and the tornado of the guy crashed, but the tornado easily absorbed the girl's power and moved forward, crashing into the girl and throwing her away. Clutching his chest, the guy coughed and cursed the girl. She made him use up his life force to use this trick. For this, he will turn it into his source of energy. Suddenly, he noticed that someone was walking in this direction and thought that it might be the support of the Heroes Association. Judging by his physical condition, it's better for him to retreat. At this time, the one the guy noticed was Zhu Shuntian. He landed on the ground and immediately realized that there was a fight. Soon he saw a girl lying on the ground. Approaching her, he picked up her Hero Association ID and found out who she was. Crouching down, he lifted her head and asked if she was okay. After checking her condition, he said that the girl was seriously injured and had a weak pulse. It was too late to take her to the hospital, so he asked the master what to do. The spirit girl reminded him that Xiaobai had given him a soul-saving pill and added that it would be useful to this girl. The guy, remembering about the medicine, took it out of his pockets and opening the lid presented it to the girl's lips, thinking that in this state the girl could not take medicine at all. After looking at the medicine, he was confused, but thinking that it looked like some kind of TV show, he still drank the medicine and gave it to the girl through his mouth. Soon, the girl took a deep breath and her wounds began to heal on their own. A soft yellow aura rose from the wounded man's seats. The guy, seeing this, said that this medicine works very quickly. It won't take her long to fully recover. Soon, the girl's metal dog came up to the guy and started showing a recording of the fight. Looking at him, the guy was surprised to notice that he had dealt with this guy recently, since he was still alive. He asked the dog that he had hurt the girl. The dog barked and the guy asked him what he wanted the guy to follow him. In another part of the forest, a girl with blue hair was picking mushrooms. She said that her father was out of town again, and therefore she herself would have to solve the problem with dinner. Stark was walking not far from the girl and noticing her, he said that a person without superpowers in such a place. Grinning maliciously, the villain decided to restore his strength with her help. At the same time, the mechanical dog was leading the guy who was carrying Kang Lan on his back somewhere. Suddenly there was an explosion and the guy saw it and said that it looked like someone was fighting there, and therefore hurried there, but approaching cautiously hid. Then, looking out from behind a tree, he saw a familiar girl and wondered why she was here and why she was fighting with this guy. Leaving the girl on the ground, he told the dog to stay here and protect the mistress, and he would take care of that guy. At this time, the girl with blue hair jumped away from the opponent and looking at him thought about who he was. How can he be so agile? She used a lot of lightning talismans, but they didn't hit him. She shouldn't let him get close. If he gets close to her, she's finished. Stark was also surprised by the girl's strength and cursed, shouting, asking if this girl was not a worthless person. How can she throw a piece of paper with such force? Jumping away from another attack, the villain grabbed the trunk of a tree with tentacles from his hands, thinking that if such a big noise attracted people from the Heroic Association, he would be in trouble. Therefore, he should kill her sooner. The guy pulled out a tree and threw it towards the girl, and the girl threw a talisman in response, thinking that now she can't count on her father to return. She can only rely on herself. The talisman crashed into a tree trunk and exploded, causing the tree to fly in the other direction and raise dust. Taking advantage of this, the villain attacked from an unexpected place, shouting for the girl to go to hell. The girl, noticing the opponent, shouted that it was bad and did not know what to do. At this time, Stark almost reached her, but right in front of him she disappeared, leaving an afterimage. A new figure appeared in the sky from whose hand sparks flew, and this man said that the one who should go to hell is a villain. Concentrating spiritual power in his finger, the guy, despite the embarrassment of the girl who was looking at him, released a beam directly at the villain. The girl confusedly asked the guy about how he became so strong. The guy came down from the sky and asked the girl if she was okay. The girl said she was fine, and then asked how he got here, and this trick just. The guy said it was a long story and asked the girl if she still had the talismans she had just used. The girl said she still has a few. The guy pointed to that place and said that this guy has the ability to regenerate. His trick absorbed all of his energy attached to him. Then the guy told the girl to use the talisman to finish him off. There was a strange clot on the ground, and seeing it, the girl agreed with a smile and said that they would send it to the point of no return. There was an explosion and the guy looking at it said that it should have been enough. The girl, looking at the guy, thanked him for saving her. The guy smiled and said it wasn't worth it. Besides, the girl had already saved him once, so they were even. Then the guy asked the girl about why he always meets her in the woods. Does she really live here? The girl smiled and said that their family had lived here in the Taoist temple for several generations. Then the girl invited the guy to her house so that he could see it with his own eyes. The guy agreed, but I asked her to wait for him here for a while. Running away, he left that he had important things to do, and then asked for forgiveness, said that he would be a minute. In the middle of the ocean, in a deep sea base, several people were watching the news. On TV, the girl said that recently passenger ships in the sea near the city of Mirage were often attacked by mutant monsters, showing the sea and the tentacles of the octopus that was grabbing the ship. The presenter continued, saying that there are many monsters above a level among them. Currently, the Heroes Association has sent Nyan Dong Qi to lead a team to deal with them. Finally, the presenter said that they would continue to follow the news, so she asked viewers to stay in the channel. The blonde in the hood adjusted her glasses and said that it was a great job. The next step is to wait for these heroes to deliver themselves to the door. The man with horns asked the girl that what she sent really works. The girl folded her arms under her chest and nodded and said that if he caught an S-class hero, then let him not kill him. Their boss plans to keep them to extract their superpowers. The girl got up and started walking to the exit, and the demon-like man told her with a grim smile, so that she would not worry, he would leave them alive. The girl reached the door, nodded and said that she was leaving. Then she added that she would be back in a few days to check the results. The guy reached the place where he left Kang Lan, and the girl who had already recovered said that he was finally here. The guy, seeing that she was looking into some kind of hologram, asked her if her wounds had completely healed. The girl was embarrassed by the memories of the kiss and thanked the guy, saying that he not only saved her, but also fulfilled her mission for her. Awkwardly scratching his head, the guy asked the girl how she found out. The girl stroked her dog's head, said that he had written everything down, and then added that the guy was very strong. She looked at the guy and asked him that he was a newly recruited hero of the Heroic Association. Besides, there's that girl. The guy, laughing loudly, scratched his head and said that this could not be. He is still 16 and attends a Superpowers school in the city of Mehai. The girl was surprised by this revelation, and she asked him how he managed to kill a wanted S-class criminal at the age of 16. Why doesn't he join the Heroic Association? Still scratching his head, the guy asked the girl to keep his secret. He would like to study at the School of Superpowers, and the guy thought to himself that his real strength is only at the level of C if he joins the Heroic Association. They will reveal it in a minute. The girl sighed and said that influential people like him always have a lot of excuses. Then she introduced herself as Kang Lan and said she was a class A hero. Then she handed the guy something that looked like a watch or a compass and said it was for him. If he needs anything, he can call her through this. She said she was at his disposal. Turning and leaving, the girl told him to go back to his girlfriend. Embarrassed, the guy said that he didn't even know the girl's name, but he still returned to the girl. When they were walking through the forest, the girl smiled and said that she did not know his name, but her name was Dongfeng Kingmeng. The guy scratched his head and said that his name was Zhu Shuntian. The girl asked the guy what he was doing in this place, and who was this strange person just now. The guy sighed and said that it was a long story. Soon they reached the Taoist temple on Mount Wuding, and the girl said that her house was right ahead. The guy went right through the rock, said that this is an amazing place. Why can't he see it from the outside? The girl smilingly said that protective talismans are not visible to most people. The guy, looking at the huge talisman in the sky, around which spiritual energy was circulating, asked the teacher about this thing and said why it resembles the immortality technique that he learned. While the girl was walking to her house, the blonde spirit appeared and crossed her arms and said that the talisman system was indeed part of the immortal technique. However, she noticed in advance that that girl only knows how to use talismans and does not know any spiritual technique. The girl, looking at the talisman, said that she assumes that there were other immortal masters who overcame the void, came to this world and taught these things to the people of this world. The guy, too, looking at the talisman, nodded, saying that's how it is. Sitting on the roof of the house was Yan Hua, a tan man with blonde hair. Smiling, he said that after waiting half a day, he finally saw someone come back. He even thought that this place was completely empty. The guy jumped off the roof and asked the girl that she was Dongfeng Kingmeng. Taking out the sword, the girl asked the one who he was and how he got here. The tan guy raised his hands up and laughed awkwardly, told the girl to calm down. He was taught how to bypass this protection and he's only here to deliver a message. Holding out a letter to the girl, the guy said that the girl's brother Dongfeng Yunqiu asked him to give her this. The girl took the letter with surprise and the guy with tan skin said that he was done with it and it was time for him to leave. The girl stopped the guy and asked if he was her brother's friend and how he was there. Laughing when he heard the word friend, the tan guy said that her brother treated him like a servant. Then he added that he didn't know much about him and he hadn't seen him for a long time. After these words, the guy began to wrap himself in the wind and saying goodbye just disappeared. This of course shocked both the girl and Zhu Shuntian. The guy looked at the girl smiling and asked her what it meant to take her. The girl said she hadn't seen him since he left home a few years ago. Turning, the girl told him to follow her. Soon they reached the house and both sat down on Chinese chairs. The girl picked up the talisman and said that the pattern of this talisman is unusual. It's completely different from the ones she's seen. Suddenly, a voice was heard asking where King Meng was. The girl, shocked, looked in that direction and, confused and excited, said that it was his dad. He never allowed her to contact outsiders if he saw a guy here. The guy, embarrassed, imagined how an old man with dangerous talismans was running after him, blowing up everything and asking about what kind of brat he was and how he dared to touch his daughter. Having imagined this, the guy immediately said that it was bad. The girl immediately pointed to the side and said that the guy needed to leave, which shocked him. But then the guy nodded and asked for a second, in which he wrote his data on a piece of paper and throwing it towards the girl, smiling, said that this was his number. If she has any problems, she can call him at any time. The girl, seeing the leaf, thought confusedly that it looked like she had a friend. At this time, an old man came into the room and seeing the girl asked what she was looking at. The girl immediately turned around and happily said that she was not looking at anything. At the School of Superpowers, a blonde teacher in the classroom said that everyone who chooses their combat system naturally moves towards the goal of becoming a hero. Next, she decided to talk in more detail about super abilities. Having shown 3 types of strength on the hologram board, the girl said that according to the general theory, superpowers are divided into mental type, type of strengthening, and type of specialization. Mental type heroes control all kinds of things with the will, including the elemental system. The most famous representative of this type is the president of the Water Witch Heroes Association. Heroes of the fortification type strengthen themselves or others depending on superpowers. Many heroes have exactly this type. The type of specializations is a general term that does not apply to the first 2. A representative of this type is one of Zhu Shuntian's classmates. The teacher looked at Xin Xuan and asked her to demonstrate mental strength. The girl came out to the blackboard and said that mental strength or mind power is a superpower that relies on its own will to control things around them, such as stationery on the student's desk. Stretching out her finger, the girl wanted to use force, but only silence hung in the classroom. In a panic, the girl wondered why she couldn't do it. Before coming to school, she couldn't do it. The guy, looking at the pale girl, wondered if something was wrong. Did something happen to her bracelet? The girl opened her palm and screamed for the mental power to manifest in pens, pencil cases, textbooks, pencils, and all other stationery to rise up. The girl, looking at this, sweated even more, but she did not feel that she was using her super ability, although the stationery was levitating. Of course, this was done by a guy with a light flame burning on the tip of his finger. Noticing this, the girl realized that the guy had secretly helped her and was confused. In the schoolyard, a girl was walking on the terrace. She asked about what suddenly happened. She needs to ask her mom about it. She started calling her mother and soon the S-class heroine picked up the phone and asked her daughter what happened. Looking at her mother, the girl said that her bracelet had just suddenly stopped working and besides, what about her dad? He recently went on a mission to the sea. Is everything all right with him? The heroine said that he was just underwater. Perhaps the underwater environment drowns out the signal. But the girl should not worry because her father is still an S-class hero. Tina was also standing in the president's office. The mother said that her daughter's bracelet needs energy and its amount depends on the environment. The girl, looking at her mother, said that then she could only wait and then asked her mother to tell her father to be careful. After finishing the conversation with her daughter, the woman looked at Tina and said that they should discuss the issue of Nyan Dongxia's arrest and would quickly go to help. Tina nodded vigorously. An hour ago, in the Sea of Mirages, Nibbleman, an S-class hero and a demon-like type were fighting battles. Nibbleman sent a jet of water straight to the opponent, but he easily dodged. The demon grinned and said that this was the sea, and the sea was his territory. He is invincible on his own territory. The demon immediately dived towards the enemy and with great speed the fists of the enemies met, sending waves of energy in both directions. The demon screamed for the hero to die, and he frowned and said it was too early. To himself, however, Nibbleman was thinking about that the power of long-range attacks is weakened, so he needs to come up with something else. The guy used mind doubles and split into 4 parts. All 4 frequent heroes began to release their powers into the demon, and Nibbleman thought that it would be quite difficult to capture the enemy alive without equipment. The demon screamed that it was useless and used a tornado of chaos, which caused 3 huge tornadoes around him, sucking everything into himself. The demon said that the whole ocean could become his shield, so the hero's attacks would be useless here. The hero approached the enemy with pomp, clenching his fist and preparing a blow, and coming close, he shouted that the ocean was to the side, and hitting the enemy with a wave near, shouted that his fist could pierce the heavens. A huge wave came out from under the water because of the hero's blow, and it was filmed from helicopters. Clenching his fist, the demon admitted that the hero is really strong, but then said that he did not even come close to breaking the demon's defense. The surprised hero said in disbelief that he could not believe that the demon was not injured, but again filling his fist with strength, he shouted that if one blow did not help, then he would strike 100 times. The demon fighting the hero thought that he was getting stronger and stronger. The demon urgently needed to activate the equipment, otherwise it would be too difficult to catch the hero. A whirlwind of water rose from the ocean, grabbing both the hero and the villain with it, and the hero's next blow was easily captured by the demon. Grinning maliciously, the demon said that they would end there. The hero was perplexed to find that he could no longer use his mental power. The demon grabbed the man by tying him up with the help of water. At school, walking along the road, Zhu Shuntian looked at the phone saying that King Meng still hadn't added it. Perhaps he should have asked for her contacts. At this time, Xin Xuan suddenly called the guy and stopped. He turned around. The girl ran up to him and stopped and thanked him for helping her today, to which the guy smiled and said that she had already helped him before, so they were even. The girl then remembered and said that didn't the guy have any super abilities before? How exactly he got them? Can he share his experience with her? Awkwardly averting his gaze, the guy took her away from those, saying that everyone awakens in their own way, so even if he tells her about it, it will be useless. The guy thought to himself that the master advised him not to tell anyone about the cultivation of immortality. After having a quick chat with the girl, he said that there was a sale at the supermarket today, so he should go. Looking at the fleeing guy with suspicion, the girl said that she feels that the guy is hiding something. Among the high-rise buildings and a skateboard next to them, a girl with pink hair appeared floating in the sky. She said that fortunately, she found out the guy's home address if she hides in his house beforehand. Then she will be able to find out what he is trying to hide from her. Going into one of the rooms, the girl was thinking about where to hide and looking around. She noticed that things in this room are a little strange. They were all in the ancient Chinese style. She found a jade bottle with the image of a flower and said that he uses these things to awaken his super abilities. Opening the bottle, she felt a pleasant aroma that plunged her into a trance. After a while, the guy himself came into the apartment with packages in his hands. The first thing he did was to call Xiao Bai, saying that there was a big sale at the supermarket today and he bought him his favorite noodles with beef and sauerkraut. Suddenly the guy saw a shadow in the room and asked who it was. The blonde spirit said that this morning Xiao Bai said that he was missing a few herbs for alchemy, and therefore he left for a while. Did the guy forget about it? But looking at the open door, the girl assumed that Bai had forgotten to close the doors again. Suddenly, a shadow pounced on the guy, which made him recoil, but suddenly he recognized Xing Xuan, who hugged him with a red face and said that daddy had finally returned. The shocked guy asked her what she was doing in his house, and besides, he was not her father. The blonde spirit, finding a bottle with a fragrance, grinned and told the student that it looked like the girl accidentally opened Xiao Bai's drink. The guy with a dumbfounded face looked at the girl who fawned over him and called him daddy. The girl also said that he did not return for a long time, but the guy pushing her away told her to wake up and that he was not her father. The blonde girl, looking at Xing Xuan's condition, said that this drink is 1,000 days of drunkenness. It does not greatly affect immortals, but ordinary people can get drunk for a whole day just by inhaling its aroma a little. The only way to bring her to her senses, the master bent down and touched Xing Xuan's stomach with her palm, which made her laugh, but the spirit continued to inject some spiritual energy, saying that it was necessary to bring out the effect of the drink. During the procedure, the spirit master suddenly discovered that this girl's body has spiritual roots, and its fiery root has a kinship with spiritual energy. The guy still grabbing the girl by the head asked the teacher what spiritual root she was talking about. Was Xing Xuan born with the qualities necessary to cultivate immortality? The girl nodded with a smile, and thought to herself that although her qualifications were not as good as her students, she was still a treasure. Hovering over the guy, the master told the disciple to use his spiritual energy to bring the girl back to consciousness. The woman needs to see if the guy's control over his spiritual energy has improved during this time. The guy nodded and tilted the red girl and blushed himself. After that, he took out the spiritual energy from her through her mouth. The spirit master said that these days she has also been watching this girl for a long time and believes that she is not a bad person. The master told the guy that when the girl wakes up, he he should tell her about the cultivation of immortals. If there are more people with him, he will have more energy to cultivate immortality. Some time passed and it was late evening, and when the girl woke up, the guy told her everything. The girl was excited and said that it was amazing that in addition to superpowers, there is such a thing as immortal power. Grabbing the guy's hands, the girl excitedly said that she wanted to learn this. She has always relied on her father's superpowers and she is tired of it. The spirit master, looking at them contentedly, said that now that she had agreed, they should start the first step. Having moved into the guy, the master said that the girl can't see her soul body yet, so she needs to borrow her student's body for a while. The spirit in the guy's body raised her hand and told the girl not to move. She grabbed the girl by the chin, which made her blush, and asked the guy what he was doing. The spirit in the guy's body kissed the girl's forehead and she found herself in a strange place. The girl felt that something was sprouting inside her and did not understand what it was. Some time later, she opened her eyes and saw a guy next to whom a blonde craftsman was hovering. The surprised girl said that she was so beautiful. This is the master the guy told her about. The guy nodded and asked if she could see her. The spirit master said it seemed to work. Xuan remembered that feeling and looking at her palms asked them what it was and what she saw. The master smiled and said that she had revived her divine consciousness, and the spiritual roots in her body were also activated. The delighted girl hugged the master, asking her if she could use the immortal technique now. The teacher was surprised by such pressure and pulled out a book from somewhere, said that it was too early, you can't rush with such things. Then she gave her the book and told her that it was the Flying Star Spirit Sword technique. She has to study it first. The girl happily thanked the master. Then the guy looked at the phone and said it was too late. Then he asked the girl why she didn't stay for dinner tonight. He was going to cook. The girl, slightly embarrassed, agreed. And after a while, 3 people were sitting in front of the table in the living room. Xuan, trying the delicacies of cooking by a guy, said with pleasure that he was a delicious cook. The guy's sister, seeing how the girl was in a hurry with food, told her to eat slower, she might choke on food. The girl said with a smile that she hadn't had dinner with anyone for a long time. When you eat with someone, your appetite increases. The guy, surprised, asked the girl where her parents were, and the girl anxiously hung her head and said that they were so busy with their work. They don't have time. When she's at home, there's only a robot babysitter with her. Imagining a fragile girl next to a huge robot, the guy said that it was too tragic, thinking to himself that he had heard that Xuan's parents were heroes and thought that their family life was very happy. But he did not expect that everything would be like this. The guy's sister turned to the girl and said that she could come here and spend more time with them. The girl nodded happily and said that she still needed her brother's advice on many issues. The next day after dinner, Xuan sat with a guy in front of the TV, and they watched the news. The news said that an important news was being broadcast. Perhaps the biggest disaster in the history of the Association of Heroes. Recently, the association sent several S-class heroes to destroy the King of the Depths. All of them have gone irrevocably, including the 3rd rank S-class hero Nyan Dongxia. Looking at the TV, the guy anxiously asked the girl if it wasn't her father. He was all right. Looking at the news, the girl thought that when this happened to her father, why didn't her mother tell her about it? The girl turned off the TV and said that the Heroes Association would sort it out. They will find a way to solve this problem and they don't need to worry. Sitting in the lotus position opposite the guy who was also sitting in this position in a strange array, the girl cultivated. And the spirit master watched over everything. Of course, the blonde noticed that the girl was worried about something, so she told her not to be distracted. She must concentrate. The girl said worriedly that yesterday she had learned to feel spiritual energy. She also learned a lot of small techniques. How long it takes to enter the Kai cultivation stage. Couldn't she take one of the pills that Shuntian used to speed up the process? The spirit master said that the girl should not try to shorten the path. She needs to build a strong foundation. The pills that the guy took have side effects. The consumption of his spiritual energy is twice as much as that of an ordinary person. The girl nodded, saying that she understood, but the guy was outraged by this and asked why the master had not told him about it before. The spirit master, looking indifferently, said that this side effect was nothing. As long as they are diligently engaged in self-improvement, this side effect will automatically disappear after they create their foundation. The two started cultivating again, and suddenly Xiao Bai appeared in the middle of the room with a hiking bag. The blonde master asked the guy if he had found all the ingredients. He took out a strangely shiny mushroom and showed it to the woman, saying that it was the last ingredient of wind lingjai. An elixir capable of raising the level of spiritual energy will be made soon. Xiao Bai looked at Xing Xuan and asked the master who the younger sister was. The girl smiled, patted Xing Xuan on the head and said that this was her new student. Xiao Bai arrived just in time. The spirit master asked Bai if he had any magical treasures with him. She told the guy to give some of them to her student for protection. The guy awkwardly said that he didn't have any magic treasure, thinking to himself that he needed this magic treasure to steal herbs, so he couldn't give it away. Grabbing Bai by the cheek, the girl frowned and said that he could not hide anything from her. He has to give it back. The poor guy agreed, and then took out a piece of jade, said that it was the jade of invisibility. It can be used to hide its shape by putting some spiritual energy into it. This is very useful for escaping in case of danger. Xing Xuan smiled and took the jade and thanked Xiao Bai. Privately, the girl thought that with this magical treasure that could make her invisible, she had a chance to save her father. At night, the girl was flying down the street on a skateboard and suddenly her bracelet rang, and answering the call, she saw the face of her mother, who anxiously asked her where she was now. The housekeeper said she hadn't come home yet. Angry, the girl said that it was not her mother's business where she was. Why didn't she tell her about what happened to her dad? Putting her hand on her head, the water witch said that telling her, she would not have solved anything with it. She just has to be a good girl and go to school, and the woman herself solved this problem. The girl got even more angry and asked her mother what she meant, saying that she would not have solved anything with this. In any case, she is the daughter of a hero, the one who did something to dad. Not finishing until the end, the girl shook her head and told her mother to forget about it and said she didn't want to talk about it. After that, the girl turned off the bell. The mother in the office was calling her anxiously, but the girl did not answer. The girl, standing on a skateboard next to her father's advertisement, thought that it was usually normal when everyone underestimated her. But now even her mother does it. This time she has to show everyone what she is capable of. With these thoughts, the girl took out the jade and injected some spiritual power into it. The hero's daughter is a label that has been hung on Xing Xuan since her birth. From a young age, she was raised with high expectations. In their eyes, she was expected to be better than an ordinary person in every way. As soon as she became at least the second, everyone was gossiping about it, saying that the daughter of the head of the Association of Heroes is only in second place, and then they mocked, saying that she is just the daughter of an S-class hero, nothing more. Although Xing Xuan always tried to prove herself and trained to exhaustion, but she always failed to meet everyone's expectations. Now even her superpowers have suddenly disappeared, and she can only rely on her father's superpowers every day. A ship was flying in the sky over the sea. The girl thought that she did not want to live under the sign of her parents' fame. With her newfound immortal skills, she is going to save her father. Driving the plane, she thought to herself that a month of driving lessons on the previous holidays had not been in vain. Soon she sank with the ship under the water. At this time, in the underwater base on his bed, the demon was sleeping in cute pajamas. Soon the girl found this base and happily pressed the red button, saying that she would do it stylishly. Atomic missiles descended directly on the cube protecting the demon's house and immediately exploded. An alarm was raised inside the base, and all the armed men began to leave the rooms, saying that this is an enemy attack. A man with his hair turned back shouted that an enemy attack had led to instability of electricity. He said to send someone to fix it. A huge number of people came out of the base, saying that how dare such a small ship attack their base. After getting out of the ship, the girl went right in front of these soldiers, and they did not notice her. Smiling, she thought about the fact that she was using jade to get inside. Soon she came up to the cube of energy, and touching it, she thought that it looked like this protective barrier had weakened and could not stop her attack. I wonder then why it is needed. Going inside, and an invisible girl knocked out the guards with one blow, asking where exactly to keep his dad. This base was surprisingly large. After looking at the data, she said that fortunately she got their data. Her dad should be on this floor. Soon she went into the right office and saw her father, who was tied to something. The girl looked at him worriedly and released air blades into this transparent sphere, but it didn't even scratch that one. But she didn't give up, screaming that she would get him out of there. The door opened and a gloomy demon came in with reddened eyes, and seeing the girl asked that she had disturbed his sleep. The girl turned around anxiously. The next day at school, the boy was sitting at his desk, but he did not see Xing Xuan at the next desk. He said it was strange why the girl still hadn't come to class. She was sick. Jaizia approached the guy and said, smiling at him, that he would not wait for her. She didn't come to school today at all and didn't even ask for time off. The guy is worried. Standing up, asked the girl to repeat. The girl approached the guy a little bent over and smiling, said that she thought Xing Xuan was not feeling well after she found out that her father was missing. The guy was embarrassed by such closeness, but Jia sat down on the desk, smiled nastily and said that while she was gone, he belonged to Jia. The guy pushing the girl away asked with incomprehension when he became her. After leaving school, the guy said that Xingxuan usually studied so hard. She never missed a class. The spirit master informed him that she had been distracted a lot during training yesterday. After looking at her, the guy asked the master that the girl had gone to save her father or something. But she can't even use her superpowers right now. She's not that stupid. Crossing her arms, the spirit master said that she feels that the energy of the magic treasure that Xingxuan received last night is already far away from here. It looks like the guy's girlfriend is really careless. Hearing this, the guy worriedly said that she was crazy and jerked towards the road, talking about what a girl can do alone. He must go and save her. The master spirit stopped the guy for a moment, but the guy didn't listen and ran on. Hovering beside him, the woman anxiously told him to go back to Xiaobai first and put on the Taoist robe, as well as borrow a heavenly thread and a yuan bracelet from him. Otherwise, the guy will have to rely only on luck. Floating over the ocean with his master, Shun Tian asked her if she felt the energy of the treasure. The girl looked at the guy and said that they were approaching. Looking at the guy with severity, the girl told him to be careful and when to join the fight did not let himself go. Looking at the master with a bit of indignation, the guy still nodded. Soon he sank under the water and found the base where Xingxuan went. The guy said in surprise that all the things of immortals are amazing. Wearing this robe, he can breathe freely underwater and his movements are not limited at all. Looking at the base, he summoned a second treasure and, folding one hand into a seal, grinned and said that he would test this treasure first. Waving a red ribbon, the guy told him to make chaos. With a wave of the guy, a water funnel began to appear next to the base, which soon turned into a whirlwind. The soldiers inside the base immediately noticed this and asked each other what was going on there. Is it really another hero attack? On the surveillance cameras, the guard who was watching the neighborhood noticed the guy and said that there really was someone there. The guy sighing said that this thing consumes a lot of physical energy to use. At this time, a warrior from the base began identifying the guy's face, but soon the system saw that the identification failed and this guy was not from the Hero Association. The surprised guard asked where this guy got such strength from. His partner grinned and said that since this guy was a hero, they immediately destroyed him with a water cannon and wanted to press the red button. But suddenly they were stopped by a demon that appeared from behind. Approaching the screen, the demon said that he would deal with this guy, which surprised the soldiers. The demon was excited, because this was the first time he met someone who has such control over the sea. He would like to see who is the real king of the depths. The guy sent one vortex funnel after another, but no one came out, which made him wonder why this was happening. To his surprise, one of the whirlwinds simply disappeared and seeing this, the guy waved the ribbon once again making another whirlwind. But a demon emerged from under the water, saying that such a non-entity could shake the sea. It was something interesting for him. The demon immediately sent water sharks towards the guy. The guy barely dodged them, surprised at such a fast speed of the sharks. After all, to control them, you need to spend a lot of energy. A little more and the guy's energy will run out. The guy created a dome around himself, into which the sharks hit and turned, aiming towards the demon himself. The surprised demon turned pale and shouted about how this was possible. How can he direct his own attack against him? Departing from Pisces, the demon realized that this guy does not use his superpower like other heroes. It's probably some kind of supernatural force. The guy waved the red ribbon, sending him towards the demon and at the same time shouting for the demon to free Xingxuan and the heroes he had captured. The demon grabbed the tape, realizing that he and the guy control the streams. Grinning, the demon said that a guy at such a young age dared to come here alone. The demon even recognized his courage. Pulling the ribbon towards him, the demon decided to take him to himself, simultaneously summoning water pythons and shouting that he was advising the guy to give up this boring dream of becoming a hero. Looking at the pythons coming in his direction, the guy got excited thinking that the strength of that guy is just huge. The guy let go of the tape and said that if he wanted it, the guy would give the tape to him. The demon grabbed the tape and smiled, saying that without this thing he would not be able to control the flows. The demon strained to break the red ribbon, but no matter how much effort he made, he could not break it. Therefore, enraged, he wondered why he couldn't do it. The guy grinned, made a seal and the red ribbon immediately began to tie the demon, turning it into something like a cocoon. The guy said he was ready, but the demon didn't want to give up so easily. It turned into liquid and emerged from the opening of the tape outside. Back acquiring his form, he angrily asked the guy that he wanted to stop him with a simple rag. This greatly shocked the guy and before he came to his senses, the demon rushed to him using a wave of the dragon's claw and hit the guy on the stomach. But unfortunately for the guy, his blow did not even leave a scratch, and looking at him with superiority, the guy grinned. The demon was shocked, said that it was impossible. He couldn't believe there was no damage at all. Not believing in it, the demon began to move very quickly through the guy's body, but did not leave any wounds. Looking down at him, Zhu Shuntian grinned and said that these were also S-level attacks. It's not enough to beat him. Waving the ribbon, the guy said that it was his turn now. But the demon managed to escape from the swings of the tape from time to time. Running away, the demon realized that this guy's weapon is very powerful. He has to put a spell and catch the guy. In turn, Shuntian was thinking that it looks like this treasure alone is not able to help him, so he must find another way. Slowly, the guy was heading towards the cube. But the master spirit immediately appeared and told him not to go there. There was something that restricted the flow of the guy's spiritual energy. Looking back, the guy noticed a purple cube and opened his mouth wide. The woman continued, saying that once he enters this spell, he will not be able to use his immortal power and will only be able to rely on magic weapons. At this time, a demon attacked him, shouting that the guy would not leave. The guy saw him immediately wave the ribbon, which caused the demon to jump away, stopping his move. The guy realized that it was not surprising that all those heroes fell here. However, as long as he is wearing this Taoist robe, he cannot die. In addition, he has another magical treasure that guarantees that he will be able to escape at any moment. Grinning, the guy went into the cube thinking that he would do what he had to. Seeing this, the demon laughed loudly as he spoke. That the guy got caught. The demon released a water dragon towards the guy, and seeing his boyfriend, as if defending himself, put the tape in the block and decided first to pretend that he could not use his weapon, and this would deceive that guy so that he caught him. The water column crashed into him, causing the guy to be thrown away, but still the guy stood up smiling and saying that although he could not use his weapon, but the demon would still not be able to kill him. The demon grinned and put his hand in the seal and said that he didn't care. The guy still won't be able to escape without his abilities, and without them he is weaker than a fish in the sea. The demon decided to use a water balloon to catch this guy, and then he examined his protective equipment. The guy got caught in a bubble and in anger shouted at the demon, asking what he had done, although he thought to himself that the plan had worked. The demon smiled grimly and said that since the guy wanted to save these heroes so much, he wanted to see them with his own eyes what these heroes look like after they lose their superpowers. After leading the guy to one of the rooms, the demon pointed at him and said that he would stay here. Throwing the guy into the camera, the demon said that tomorrow he would show him how these heroes lose their superpowers. 5 minutes later, the guy checked if there was someone outside, and realizing that there was no one there, he smiled maliciously, said that how dare this bastard throw him in jail. He will turn his base upside down. Summoning the orange bracelet, he said that his time had come. Throwing the bracelet, he shouted for it to open. A big hole appeared in the wall, and coming out of it, the guy began to look around, saying that it was a good thing. Seeing that there was no one in the corridors, he closed the hole back with the help of a seal. After that, he went to the next room and slightly opened the hole there, and seeing that there was no one there either, he asked where Xuan was. In the first floor of the base, 2 people were sitting in room A. A buxom beauty with purple hair turned to a cellmate and asked him how he was and whether his super abilities had returned to him. The second prisoner, a boy with short white hair, showed a little energy in his hand, but shook his head regretfully, saying that he thinks there is something here that blocks their powers. The guy was an S-class hero with the number 11 Shimayo. The gorgeous girl, hearing about this, said worriedly that if this thing blocks their abilities, it's very bad. If they can't recover them, it will be difficult for them to get out of here. This smile lady was also an S-class hero named Siren. The girl hugged the guy in a panic and said that she had not been on the air for several days, and if her fans found out how pathetic she looked now, she would lose them. At this time, the guy reached the next room and made a hole in it, thinking that the girl was here, but he saw these 2 S-class heroes. Seeing these 2, the guy, angry, said that the king of the depths really captured a few ordinary people. He will save this mother and child together later. Approaching the last room, the guy opened it and saw Nyan Dongxia locked inside a strange structure. Approaching the man, he exclaimed joyfully that he had finally found him. Nyan Dongxia, with a scar in one eye, looked at the guy and asked who he was. Did the Hero Association send him to save Nyan Dongxia? The guy came up to the camera and said that he was Xuan's classmate, and he was here to save him. The surprised man asked the guy that it was his superpower. The guy nodded confusedly and asked the man if he knew where to keep his daughter. The man, hearing this, went berserk and asked the guy what he wanted to say, that Xuan was also here. When he gets out of this trap, he will make them pay. The guy picked up the golden ring and said that he would help now. But time passed but nothing happened. Folding his hand in the seal, the guy asked the man to wait a minute and said that this was not an ordinary barrier. Nyan Dongxia said that the guy would not be able to break it on his own. Besides, if he got out of here, it would cause alarm. He can't use his powers right now. If the guy saves him, he'll just become a burden to him. Looking seriously at Zhu Shuntian, Nyan Dongxia said that he now had an important task for the guy. Since he managed to get here, he believes that the guy can handle it. The guy listened attentively and asked what needed to be done. Nyan Dongxia said that there is some kind of device inside this base that disables super abilities. If the guy manages to break it, then Nyan Dongxia will be able to get out of here by himself. Thinking about it, the guy asked where he could find this device. The man said that he saw information about him when he destroyed the underground laboratory. For this kind of devices to work, a power supply system is required. There will be heavy security near the device. It would be very difficult, and Nyan Dongxia assumed that the guy would have to destroy the electrical system directly. The guy nodded and said he was going. At this time, in one of the corridors of the base, 3 soldered soldiers were walking leaning on each other. One of them told his friends not to worry, because the chief is guarding the device. He suggested they sneak in and have a good time. No one would know. A drunk man with swollen eyes laughed nastily and said that she was a popular woman, and she was much better than the girl their boss caught last night. They reached Sai Ren's office, and this nasty man shouted at her to go and have fun with them. Of course, the girl screamed so that they would not dare to do such a thing. The man looked down at the girl and said that now that she had lost her strength, she was just a weak woman. She won't be able to resist, so she has to accept her fate. Coming forward, the white-haired boy shouted that he would not allow these animals to harm the girl. The ugly man kicked the child, telling him to get lost, and the guy flew back. The man licked his lips and told his brothers that they should have fun today. The heroine of the S-class is a delicacy. 2 other soldiers also looked at the girl with a lustful face and said that this was indeed the case. The girl in anger shouted that they were shameless and bent down to kick them, but her leg was easily caught. And the nasty man said that the more she resists, the more they rejoice. Suddenly, at this time, a hole appeared in the wall, and jumping out from there, Shuntian hit this man right in the jaw. The man flew off, spitting a knocked-out tooth on the move. Looking at these nasty people, the guy holding a gold ring near his hand asked them if it was normal that they were mocking the mother in front of the child. The girl who hugged the boy looked at this stranger in surprise. Then the girl realized just at the guy's appeal, and, getting angry, she trembled and screamed and asked the guy who he called mother, "Is she really that old?" The boy grabbed the girl and asked her to calm down, because this guy had just saved them. The guy said that time is precious, so they first have to deal with this group of henchmen. After that, he threw a golden ring and it flew straight, hit one of the villains, then flew to the second and then to the third, knocking out a triple. Surprised, the girl noticed the treasure in the guy's hand and thought that this guy shouldn't have had so much strength to use it. Taking one of the enemy's phones, he told these 2 that no one would bother them now. Throwing one of the phones to these 2, he said it was them. He created a new communication channel. If anything happens, they will be able to contact him. The girl took the phone and thanked the guy, asking him if he was from the Association of Heroes. Brushing off, the guy said that he was just a student who happened to be passing by. He has other things to do. The guy promised them that he would come back later to save them. After that, he went to the hole and higher out of it. The girl asked in shock that he just left. At this time, all this was visible in the surveillance camera room. But the one in charge of this place was sleeping right here. Another man in full uniform came into the office and, seeing that the subordinates were asleep, hit him on the helmet, shouting that he was cursed. Who allowed him to sleep? He'd better get back to work. None of these heroes should escape. The private immediately stood at attention and saluted and said what he would do. Then the commander in the surveillance cameras saw Shun Chan hiding in the passage in the corridor. Seeing him, the commander asked how this guy managed to escape. The commander immediately left the room, said that he would go to check, and the subordinate should raise the alarm and immediately inform the boss about it. He nodded. At this time, in that very corridor, 2 guards were standing next to the door. One of them said that he was very bored, soon he would go and have some fun. The guy, seeing them, said that he had finally found the right place. Suddenly everything turned red and a siren sounded right over the guy's head. The surprised guy saw in shock that those 2 guards were rushing here and twisted his mouth in displeasure. Seeing that 2 guards were approaching in his direction, the guy immediately went out to launch a ring at them, saying that it was not scary, because he was strong. The ring crashed right into the stomach of one of the guards, and at a wave of the guy's hand, it went to the next target and crashed into him. Both guards fell unconscious, and the guy used the moment to run towards the door and went into the room for power equipment. He immediately saw the strange buildings and said that it looks like this is the place. Now he just needs to destroy it all. Xianfa wanted to throw the ring, but then the commander attacked him from behind, shouting that he should go to hell. The commander's spear crashed into the protective layer of the guy's clothes, and then Xianfa noticed the enemy and turned around. At this time, the demon looking at something in the hologram said that it was very strange. Holding a red ribbon in his hands and looking at its properties, the guy said that the fabric material obviously does not differ much from the usual one. But why is it so elastic? Putting the treasure on his shoulders, Dasan waved his hand and said that it didn't matter anyway. The people from Cthulhu will send some specialists today. They have studied a lot in this area, and they will give answers. Dancing with the red ribbon, the demon said that it was impossible to make the sea do everything you want with just a piece of cloth. While he was having fun here, the alarm suddenly rang, and looking at him, he asked about what was going on. Immediately a subordinate burst into the office and wanted to report the invasion, but froze from the picture in front of him. In the center of the room, illuminated in red, his boss was dancing with a ribbon in his hands. Coughing dryly, the slightly embarrassed demon asked about what had happened. Then the guardian reported that the child who was captured had escaped. The angry demon in anger asked how this child was able to escape if he couldn't use superpowers either. With a wave of his hand illuminated by the scarlet light, the demon ordered all the soldiers to stay in their places. He decided to check everything personally. Running quickly towards the alarm, the demon couldn't believe that this guy had gone to the energy equipment room. Does he know the secret of this place? Gloomily, the demon thought that if all these heroes escape, the people of Cthulhu will skin him, so he must stop him. At this time, the commander stabbed the guy in the back, asking why he could still use his super abilities. The device is working and it cannot give errors. Grinning, the guy said that he was just a bug and turned around and threw the ring in the opponent's face. The ring smashed into the commander's helmet and threw him away. The guy immediately used the seal to direct the golden ring towards the buildings and quickly began to destroy everything. Explosions rang out, the room began to shake. Taking back the ring, the boy laughed, speaking that the task is completed. At this time, an underwater ship was moving towards the base. Looking at the base, the blonde thought that it was strange that the borders of the device disappeared. Looking at the blonde, the guy with the long bangs clenched his fist and asked Moni that the heroes whom their boss asked to deliver did not escape. Did they? It was another member of Cthulhu, Kai Ursi. Next to this guy, another Cthulhu member, Mikate, in a white suit, said it would be better if they ran away. She loved to play cat and mouse so much. Adjusting her glasses, the blonde said that the situation had changed. Kai Ursi goes with her to check the device, and Mikate goes to check the heroes. In the third underground floor of the base, the blonde stood and watched as Kai Ursi opened some kind of gateway. When Kai Ursi placed his palm, a red glow with a signal appeared, and looking at this, Kai Ursi said that it looked like there was a malfunction in the power supply system. The blonde told the guy to immediately restore the power to this device, and then added that she hoped that the heroes did not notice that their super abilities had returned. Kai Ursi smilingly asked her to provide it to him and began to release purple discharges towards the device. While Kai Ursi was releasing power, there was a crash from the other side and the device broke, and Kai Ursi, who was nearby, flew to the side due to the explosion. The girl, hardly holding herself in place, tried to look at the unwanted guest and saw Nyan Dongxia, who came in with a prepared force. The girl waved her hand, telling her partner to provide this hero to her, and ordered Kai Ursi to go and grab the other heroes. Kai Ursi agreed, but Nyan Dongxia did not wait and immediately attacked the girl, asking her what she could stop him. The girl smiled and called up some stones of life and said that it was difficult for her to say so right away. Shuntian was now walking through the corridors of the second underground floor of the base, thinking that he had searched all the floors, but he had not found Xing Xuan where she could be. Suddenly a demon landed on top, and noticing this, the guy turned around with a cold sweat and saw an angry demon holding a purple ball in his hand sparkling with lightning. The demon with reddened eyes shouted that this time he would break all the limbs of the guy so that he could no longer escape. The demon raised his hand, sending a ball of lightning towards the guy, and the guy, seeing danger in him, crouched down. A demon with a gloomy face asked about the fact that the guy had dodged. The guy turned around and shouted that if the demon wanted to break his limbs, he would have to catch up with him first. And the guy thought to himself that he needed to take this guy in the other direction. Running towards the closed door, he sent the ring and shouted for it to open, and immediately jumped into the hole after him. The demon, seeing this in disbelief, asked that this child could still use the abilities and ran after him. Smiling grimly, the demon said that it was worthy of killing him. The guy jumped over the wall and saw a girl in a white suit fighting with Siren and Shimayo. Surprised, I recognized my friends and asked who they were fighting against. Jumping back, Siren fired a volley of light arrows towards the enemy and said that if she remembered correctly, it was me, Kate, a wanted S-class criminal who was rescued from the Monty Prison Island by the Cthulhu organization 3 years ago. Kicking back with her tail, Kate looked down on the girl and said she couldn't believe there were people here who knew her. The guy running in the other direction looked at the girl thinking that he had not yet dealt with the King of the Depths, and then there was another problem of the S-class criminal level. May noticed the guy and said that there seemed to be a little mouse there and rushed in his direction. A tail flew at the guy, and seeing this, the white-haired boy shouted that he should be careful and using force raised a wall of ice right between the guy and the villain. The boy asked the guy if he was injured, but the guy looking at the block of ice said that everything was fine and thanked him. They landed on the ground clucking her tongue, and the two heroes approached the guy. The girl told him to be careful and said that this woman is very fast. Looking at the girl, the guy thought that they might have to find a way to limit the movement of this villain. Suddenly, he grinned and threw his gold ring, which flew towards May. Grinning, the villain reflected the ring with her tail, saying that this little trick poses no threat to her. But to her surprise, the ring flew off again, turned around and followed her. The girl doing a backflip was able to avoid the next blow, but the ring continued to pursue him and expanded, grabbed her. The guy with the gloomy face shouted for the heroes to attack her now. The boy immediately sent an ice pinch, and the girl shot light arrows. At this time, a guy with long bangs was running towards this room, saying that the sounds of the battle came from this side. Right before he came in, the wall exploded and May flew out of it right at the guy, and the surprised guy didn't have time to dodge. The girl crashed into him and they both flew off and crashed into the wall. Looking at this, Shun-chan rather said that they killed 2 birds with 1 stone. After leaving the room, the guy told the ring to come back, which the latter did. After looking at each other, the S-class heroes read in each other's eyes the same thought: what the hell is going on here? The boy looked at the joyful Shun-chan and thought that he did not feel any super strength from him, but he could use such unexpected techniques. At this time, an explosion also rang out from the other side, raising dust. All 3 turned in that direction, and when the fervor subsided a little, they saw the demon, who turned around and saw the guy and said that he had finally found this brat. The guy excitedly said that they had made a lot of noise and Vladika Glubin had found him. Having covered the guy, the heroes immediately prepared for a fight. The girl said that he doesn't have superpowers, and also he's not a member of the Hero Association, so he should stay behind them. Smiling, the guy thanked them, but also added that the opponents would not let the victim go on the battlefield simply because he did not have super abilities. Moreover, he needs him. Coming forward again, the guy got ready for a fight. Seeing this, the heroes thought that this guy was really impressive. The boy with white hair took a fighting pose and asked him to let them help him. The boy released chunks of ice towards the demon, but he shouted that he did not get in his way, and repelled the attack with purple claws, which subsequently hit the boy. The guy jumping on the shards of ice shouted that now the Lord of the Depths is his opponent. Concentrating the energy in his finger, he used a finger piercing the heavens in front of the demon, which directly got the villain. After landing, the guy looked in surprise in that direction, asking that he really did it. Suddenly, to the horror of the heroes, the voice of the Lord of the Depths rang out, saying that the guy forced him to do this. The demon really underestimated him. The guy asked with shock how it was possible, how he could withstand this blow, and soon when the fervor settled, they saw a huge Chinese blue dragon. The girl immediately took aim and shouted that they did not stop and attacked. The boy also used the power of ice to send shards, but all the blows just shattered on the dragon's scales. Seeing this, the girl said with panic that the scales were too strong, it could not be pierced. The dragon screamed for the guy to die and, opening his mouth, began to accumulate a ball of energy. He let out his breath and the girl pushed the guy away and took the blow on herself. The girl fell unconscious and holding her boyfriend asked if she was okay. Looking at these 2 heroes who were lying unconscious, the guy was thinking about what he should do next, because they were both defeated. The dragon with a glint in his red eyes said that the guy has 2 options. He will give up his weapon and tell about his secret, and then the dragon promises that the guy will die quickly. Or the dragon can cut off all the limbs of the guy and then he will never be able to use these things again. The guy with a serious mien looking at the dragon asked his master if it was possible to use this bracelet anyway. The spirit master immediately appeared next to him and said that the bracelet has other uses, but with his current level of development, if he forcibly uses his power, he will be severely depleted. Blazing with golden fire, the guy asked the teacher from where she knows. He's never tried it. Besides, he doesn't want to lose to this guy. The hoop in the guy's hand suddenly split, and holding both, the guy said that the dragon would have to give his life to take his things. The guy released both hoops glowing with a golden aura, and they flew straight at the dragon. The dragon, looking down from above, said that these things would not work on him. But the guy squinted and said that this was not the end and called for new duplicates of hoops, who attacked the dragon's body, laughing loudly. The dragon said that what's the use of duplication if he can't even touch it with his finger. The guy smiled, asked about how on the count of 10 and duplicated the hoops again, and now the dragon panicked. The hoops captured the dragon, and the guy folded the seal, began to squeeze the hoops, which is why the dragon roared at the top of his lungs and told the guy to stop. Looking at the disciple, the spirit master thought that this boy was really smart. He came up with the idea to use the ability of duplicates. The girl proudly looked at the sweating disciple and thought that he had provoked the king of the depths and was able to trap him in one move. His aura is overflowing and his legs are buckling, but he refuses to let go of his opponent. The master spirit liked this attitude. The dragon in hellish pain screamed that he had to kill this damn brat. The hoops had already tightly squeezed the dragon's body, which made it seem that his body had swollen, trembling all over. The guy said that he would still see if the dragon would kill him first, or if he would twist the dragon by becoming the first. Then she said that this deep sea beast has a strong aura. If he signs a spiritual contract with it, it will bring great benefits to his cultivation in the future. The guy slightly expanded the hoops, said that the dragon has two options. Either he will be his spiritual beast and follow his orders, or he will turn into a meat puree. Dodging, the dragon screamed at the guy, telling him to shut up. Like him, a worthy king of the depths can be someone's pet. The guy started to narrow the hoops again and, feeling a lot of pain, almost crying, shouted that he would sign this contract. Of course, the dragon thought to himself that a wise man would understand what would happen if he was released. He would just pretend to obey the guy, and then he would have a chance to destroy him. The guy used a seal and an array, and a huge array appeared around the dragon, which put a seal on it. Laughing, the guy bent down on the dragon's back, saying that everything was ready. At this time, the wall exploded and a man's voice rang out, saying that it looks like the guy doesn't need his help. It was the S-class hero Xianfa. The man was carrying a knocked-out blonde on his shoulder. Then he thanked the guy for his work. He added that he would take these guys to the headquarters. He believed that they would be able to get a lot of information from them. The guy happily said that it was great, but he thought to himself that Xianfa was worthy of being his idol. Suddenly, a shadow passed by the S-class hero, and the man felt shock and hellish pain when he noticed that his arm was missing. The guy was also shocked by this incident and looked at it with his mouth wide open. The culprit was a beautiful white-haired girl with blood-red eyes. She sweetly tilted her head and said that she didn't want to tear it off. Is the S-class hero so fragile? Xianfa immediately began to heal his hand with the help of the force, feeling hellish pain. The guy wanted to run in his direction, asking if he was okay, but the man stopped the young man, saying that this girl is very strong. Looking at the departing girl, the man thought that she was able to appear unnoticed behind his back. Her level is not the same as the woman in black before her. Siren is in a coma, Shimayo is injured. They need to finish this fight as soon as possible. The man opened his palm and began to accumulate water and released a jet towards the woman. But she easily defended herself with the help of a flame. And after her flame flew like a whirlwind towards the hero, and magmatic ejections broke out around Xianfa. Looking at this, the man noticed with shock that the opponent's ability is magma control. Smiling maniacally, the girl said that the first one was ready, and then leaving the blonde on the ground, she approached the white-haired boy, speaking that there are two more left. Before she could use the force, Shu-chan beat off her hand with a hoop, and the surprised villain looked in the direction of the guy. The guy took back the flying hoop and, with the dragon behind, shouted that it was his turn now. Waving away, the girl asked, smiling maliciously, about how she got here, such a powerless rat. The guy ran to the other side, told Zio-Hai to save these two, and he would find a way to save Xianfa. The dragon growled, listening to the master, and grabbed the heroes, shouting for one thing along the way, so that the vile woman would go to hell. The dragon pointed its claws towards the girl, but she screamed that the pawn should do what she was ordered to do, and raising her hands released magma from the ground towards the dragon. The guy called the dragon back, and the dragon just disappeared from the magma environment, which surprised the girl. She immediately appeared in front of the guy and asked him what his name was. The guy, shocked by the speed of the opponent, did not know what to do. Tilting her head, the girl smiled and said with love that the guy's eyes remind her of a couple named Ju, whom she killed 10 years ago. That man looked like him. He didn't give her what she wanted, even when she was about to end his life. That's why she had to kill them all and throw their bodies into the car like garbage. Hearing this revelation, the boy stood in a stupor and remembered the past. 10 years ago, people found his parents among a car crash. The guy asked about the fact that his parents died not because of the accident, but because of the people from Cthulhu. Enraged, the guy shouted at the girl, saying, for her to clarify what she just said, it's different for him. The girl turned out to be behind the guy in an instant and asked about what he would do otherwise. Because of this, the guy lost all his ardor and froze. On the other hand, a jet of energy flew towards the girl, and seeing this, the girl jumped away. The girl jumped away from the blow, and at this time the hero, who barely got out of the lava cube, shouted to the guy to leave and left this girl to him. The guy clenched his fist and said that the hero had received such a serious injury, and he could help. Suddenly, a thread of ice enveloped the guy, and the boy with white hair apologized and said that it was for his safety. And then he shouted that they should come back alive and ran towards the exit with a guy on a leash. The guy shouted furiously for the boy to untie him. Wasn't Nyan Dongxia, their colleague from the Hero Association? How can they leave him and run away? Had he forgotten that the man was one of them? With tears in his eyes, the boy shouted that he had not forgotten, but he remembers perfectly well what the hero's duty is. They are all running out of strength, and if they stay here, they will all die. But for now they are too weak. The guy looked at the crying hero with shock, and then he turned around and saw a girl who caused a huge wave of lava, shouting that no one could escape from here. The boy dragging the guy said that they should be faster. A real hero will survive this difficulty. While they were running, the man summoned a huge number of clones, and they all released the power of the waters towards the lava wave. Turning around, Nyan Dongxia with a pale face asked the guy to tell Xing Xuan that let her not forget to eat on time, and let her not be upset if she can't use her superpowers. As long as she has a brave heart, she is still a hero. The guy hardened his face and shouted that he would definitely convey these words. There was a huge explosion from the collisions of two opposing energies, and now Nyan Dongxia stood attached to the cross. Clutching her head, the girl sighed, saying that she had let go of a couple of mice. The boss would start picking on her again. Night came and the full moon illuminated the houses. In one of the houses, the voice of the presenter could be heard from the TV saying that he would report on the continuation of the incident with the abduction of heroes, which lasted for many days. The Heroes Association sent reinforcements and destroyed the deepwater base, with the exception of Nyan Dongxia. All were successfully rescued. Listening to the news with a gloomy face, the guy was lying on the bed, and his sister was peeling an apple for him. She put the peeled apple on a stool and told her brother not to forget to eat it. Leaving the room, the girl, looking at her brother, thought that he had not uttered a word since he returned, and continues to be in this state. The girl was wondering what he was thinking. The guy was thinking about Nyan Dongxia. He recalled all the moments they had experienced in the deepwater base. He remembered how he had been protected several times and realized that he was too weak. His master appeared next to the guy and asked him that he was going to be depressed forever like this. Clutching the blanket, the guy said that since he started learning the Immortal technique, he found that it was more powerful than Superpowers. Bowing his head, the guy with a gloomy face continued, saying that he thought there was nothing in the world that he could not achieve. Never did he think about his own limitations. If he continues to be reckless like before, he won't be able to protect anyone. Clenching his fist, he asked the master to teach him to be stronger. The spirit, of course, was surprised by the student's cry. Some time later, in another tent, a girly voice was heard asking what he had asked him to convey these words. Xing Xuan, lying in bed, puffing out her cheeks, said that dad was really a fool. He likes to show off so much. The guy told the girl not to worry. There are many great heroes in the association. They will definitely find a way to save her father. Waving away, the girl said that she did not need to be comforted. She was going to rest, so she asked the guy to go. When the guy came out, the girl clutched the blanket and bent down in despair. As a child, her father, smiling, came late and asked for forgiveness for this. Once he was late again and justified it by the fact that more than a dozen children were trapped at the scene of the fire, and he had the opportunity to save them. Although she sulked at him, he stroked her head smiling and promised her that next year they would definitely blow out the candles together. The girl was certainly unhappy with this promise, because he said so every year. She said that this is not the responsibility of an S-class hero, but just her father gets into trouble every day. His father smiled broadly and said that it was his duty to protect each of the people, instead of coming face to face with the stabbing knife of the enemy and then feeling the value of life. He believed that one day she would understand, because responsibility is the glory of heroes. Remembering him, she couldn't help but cry. Clutching the blankets in her hands, she screamed that her father was really a fool. Her crying could also be heard outside the door where Shun Tian was standing. Having hardened his face, the guy turned around and said, "The master, that they should go and engaged in cultivation." Looking at the guy with her arms crossed, the spirit master said that then she would be more strict with him. When the time comes, he should not shout that he is too tired and can no longer. The guy said he wouldn't. Having hardened his face and clenched his teeth, the guy promised himself that he would destroy Cthulhu. After a while, the voice of the master spirit could be heard in the guy's apartment, telling the guy why he was slowing down. He should not stop. In his room, the guy was doing push-ups, and the spirit master was sitting on him looking down at him. The guy replied that it was too heavy, and in response, the girl said that he was talking nonsense. She's not that heavy, besides, she's only in her spiritual body. She hasn't used her spiritual pressure yet. Looking at the student, and remembering the last days, the woman thought that these days she forced him to train under ultra-high pressure. She can't believe he could take it all. Getting up from her seat, the woman snapped her fingers telling the student to get up. She wants to teach him something new. Soon, they were both embraced by the golden spiritual energy, found themselves in a strange place. The girl, sternly looking at the student, said that she would teach him a unique secret technique called the Taotic Immortal technique. The guy asked with interest what it was, and the girl began to explain, saying that this technique is far from what he can master at his stage, but since he previously mistakenly absorbed the magic power of the Forest King, he can purify and extract the surrounding spiritual power, and now it is more than suitable for cultivation. There are two remarkable applications of this immortal technique, one of which is that a person relies on a spiritual contract to translate the power of the imprisoned beast into spiritual power that he can use within himself. However, there is a limit to signing a contract. With its current development, signing one contract is already the limit. More signatures will break and kill the guy. Feeling that his body was filled with energy, the guy was surprised to think that how could there be such a side effect. Her master didn't finish, continuing the explanation. Another use is in direct absorption. The stronger the object it absorbs, the more spiritual power it gets. It also means that he faces a lot of risk. In the worst case, he will experience a spiritual reaction and lose consciousness. Holding up the golden balls that somehow resembled the sun, the girl told the guy that they should try. She placed 100 balls of spiritual energy in this space. The guy should try to use his inner spiritual power to attract them to him like a magnet. When he absorbed these 100 balls of spiritual power into his body, it would mean that he had grasped the essence of the Taotic Immortal technique. The guy, pointing at the balls with his palms smiling, said that he would do it without any problems. A few days later, at the Super Ability School, two figures were standing in the duel arena, and onlookers were gathering behind the arena. On one side stood a rich son. Grinning nastily, he called the guy names and said that he had been missing for so many days that he thought the guy was hiding to avoid their argument. The guy sarcastically apologized, saying that it was very difficult to remember about the garbage. Then telling Tom to stop talking nonsense and act, the guy took a pose, using some kind of seal. The guy with green hair said that then the guy would be a poster. A magic circle appeared under the rich sun, and flames swirled around him from it. In order to be able to defeat that guy, the green-haired guy has been studying intensively for the past few days and has used his monetary power to the fullest. His superpower allows him to summon a powerful ghostly beast of equal strength at the cost of money. 100 million will be more than enough to beat this guy. A flaming giant appeared behind the green-haired one, which was emitting an incredible pressure. One of the conscript's henchmen said it was the first time he had seen his boss summon this thing. How much does it cost to manage it? Another henchman added that this giant boss beast is immune to physical attacks. He must have the strength of a class A monster. The monster's fist crashed right into the place where Shun Tian was a second ago, who managed to jump away before the impact. The giant raised one hand and struck with the other, but the guy jumped back again. The guy decided to take the third blow and just took a defensive pose. The green-haired man, seeing how the guy runs, said, grinning, that you don't just have to run like that. The guy jumped back from another blow and thought that this monster was too cool. It's impossible to use an immortal technique to absorb it directly, in that case. The guy jumped away from the blow again, and landing behind his hand, he quickly walked towards him, accumulating spiritual energy in his hands, thinking that first he would cut him into pieces. The guy sent a blade of spiritual energy towards the giant, and seeing this, the green-haired man was shocked, but the master spirit was quite his disciple. because he quickly realized that the weakness of the monster was in the joints. Thanks to the blade's scent, the guy cut the monster into several parts and the monster began to disintegrate into some strange particles. After landing, the guy stretched out his hand and began to collect the spiritual power of the monster using the Tautic Devourer. Soon the whole monster began to turn into a piece of energy that flew towards the guy's hand. This performance shocked the green-haired guy. He watched as red energy raged around his opponent. The guy smiled contentedly and said that it was nice to fight. One of the students shouted that this was the same transferred student who got an S grade on the test. It was really impressive. The second of the onlookers said that he defeated that giant so easily. His super abilities are really strong. Upon hearing them, the master spirit furrowed her brows, but didn't say anything. The girl remembered how a disciple, weakened after absorbing many balls of spiritual energy, saw a golden ball and shouted that this was the last ball of spiritual energy, and it was necessary to absorb it, no matter what. The ball was drawn to him and the guy looked at him in surprise and shouted joyfully that he had done it. Finally, the master praised the disciple and told him that he could rest. A serious guy folded his hand in his palm and asked the teacher to add another 100 balls next time, because he needs to double his practice. Looking at the guy around whom the scarlet spiritual energy was still swirling, the girl folded her hands and thought that the guy not only comprehended the Tautic technique in a short time, but even precisely controlled the force flowing from the danchin to his limbs. His strength is also much more stable than in training. This child grew up in every sense. After finishing the absorption, the guy cheerfully said to the green-haired one that it looked like he was out of luck. Turning around, he asked around, saying that the winner is determined, and the previous punishment, calling him dad, is cancelled. He would not like to have a son who does not know how to fight. The green-haired guy clenched his fist in fury, but then he heard the pinches of onlookers. One of the onlookers said that Van Zuru had spent all the money and lost his reputation. The onlooker added that it looks like Zero will no longer dare to show off at school. Another onlooker laughed and said that the son of the richest man had now become a burden. His parents probably won't recognize him now. Clutching his heart, he fell right in the arena. In an experimental base over the North Sea, which was something like a flying ship, a man with bat wings landed here. There were two people standing nearby looking at the landscape. One of the personalities was the boss of Cthulhu once. Despite the arrival, he said that he was 2 minutes late. The latecomer was the Gravity King, an S-class monster. The monster laughed and said that he was very busy. If it wasn't for Miss Mona's face, he wouldn't even have come to this place. With a cold face, Cthulhu's boss said that the monster should have known that he didn't have the habit of waiting for someone. The monster folded his arms on his chest, just clicked without answering. Mona came up to him and asked him why he didn't take a look at this plan first. The girl was sure that he would be interested to see him. Taking a piece of paper, the monster began to read. The plan said that he should create chaos and make Natsu Island disappear. Smiling, the monster said that it was interesting. Such a dangerous mission would cost 3 times more than usual. The girl nodded. The monster thought to himself that the chaos he would create would definitely lose the world, and then the eyes of the whole world would be riveted on him. The monster, holding out his hand, said that if the plan succeeded, he hoped that the girl would keep him company and would not refuse to have a drink with him. The blonde adjusted her glasses and said that if he asked about it, she would think about it. Taking off, the monster finally threw that he would be preparing, and they just have to wait for good news from him. Stroking her chin, the girl asked the boss if she could, after the mission was over, gouge out the eyes of this monster. And once indifferently, he said that she could help herself. In the laboratory of Cthulhu, where Nyan Dongsang was kept, the S-class hero was tortured with purple lightning bolts. Because of this, the sound of agony was heard in the cell and the smell of burning was felt. Looking at the hero from the mirror, I once asked 2 girls how the experiment was going. The blonde with the red armband said that they are trying to extract his super abilities, but he continues to use his psychic power to resist it. At the current rate, it will take another month. Nodding, and when passing by a blonde with glasses, he told them to remember that there are no places for mistakes in their program. The girl with the blindfold smiled maniacally and said that she had met a teenager who looked somewhat like Dr. Zhu when she was catching Nyan Dongxia. She suspected that there might be some kind of connection between them. In anger, grabbing Anna by the throat and pressing her against the wall, I once asked her if she wanted to say that information had been leaked during the operation. The girl, delighted with such behavior of the boss and blushing all over, thought about how wonderful this feeling is. Looking at the girl as garbage, is once said that her head would be on her neck for the time being. She should go and deal with it. Otherwise, he would take her head off her neck at any moment. Anna just said she would. A few days later in Summer Island, beautiful Xianfa was sitting on the beach in a swimsuit. She frowned at Shun Tian and Xing Xuan, who were sitting in front. She felt that Xing Xuan had changed a lot since recovering from the herbs. Her energy has become steady and more focused. When the teacher set the task of destroying B-rank monsters, the girl completed it in just 2 days. Xing Xuan in a bikini stood up and smilingly informed the guy that she had gone surfing. Xianfa, looking at the guy, thought that it took Shun Tian only 1 day to finish the task. Something must have happened between them. What she didn't know was that it annoyed Xianfa. Appearing in front of the guy, his master said that the nearby mountain is very rich in spiritual energy, so he should go there to cultivate. The guy stood up and nodded to the teacher. There were 2 girls standing on the other side of the island. One of the girls with brown hair pointed to the gazebo and told her friend Mia to look there. There seems to be a Chinese-style gazebo on the flight island. Rubbing her hands with cream, the girl with blue hair, whose name was Xin Mia and who was the daughter of the Prime Minister of the world, simply replied to the twin sister that it was possible. Another daughter of the Prime Minister of the world, Xindia, grabbed her sister's hand and said that her glowing eyes could see through thousands of miles. She couldn't be wrong. Inside the gazebo, Shun Chan sat in the lotus position and cultivated, accumulating spiritual energy. Sweating all over, the guy thought that this robe does not dissipate heat, and it is not cool enough in the gazebo. It's so hard for him to stay focused in this heat. He really needs a few ice cubes. Suddenly he felt cool and looked up and saw snowflakes. Then when he looked ahead, he saw that ice spikes had risen around the gazebo. Running towards the gazebo, Xindia told her sister to hurry up, saying that there really is a gazebo here. Suddenly the sky raged and the girl stumbled on the ice and fell right on the guy. Shun Chan managed to grab the girl by the shoulders and asked for forgiveness, saying that he did not do it on purpose, although he was embarrassed by such closeness. Thunder and lightning thundered and the sky was overcast. The guy looking at it asked the girl who was also looking in the sky if she was okay. The guy asked in surprise what kind of earthquake it was. Something was definitely wrong here. Suddenly, the island began to soar upwards, which is why these earthquakes occurred. Because of this, the students and the people who were on the island panicked, asking about what was going on. Someone was calling for help. Someone was just surprised that the island was rising up. Something came out of the cloudy sky, and this something was an S-class monster, the Lord of Gravity. With an evil grin, he flew towards the island, saying that he would do everything perfectly. Flying humanoid creatures appeared in the sky, and the flying island was surrounded by lightning that was on the ground every second. The Deputy King of Gravity, Thundercloud, told her warriors that thunderstorms surrounded this place. She ordered her subordinates to fly to different parts of the island and suppress all unstable factors. Shun Chan looked from the gazebo at the lightning and at the fact that the island was floating in the sky, asked about what was happening to this island. A hologram of the Lord of Gravity appeared in the sky and he smilingly called the ladies and gentlemen. He shouted that it was a surprise. Now everything is ready and they will arrange a holiday. The guy looked at him in shock. In other parts of the island, flying monsters beat people and surrounded them. Looking at the monster, the guy asked about what the wanted S-class monster, the King of Gravity, was doing here. Bending up, the guy said that there were a lot of people on the island. He should hurry up and save them. Xindia, smiling, summoned the flame on her hand, as well as wings, and told her sister that they should also go help. To herself, the girl thought that usually their father does not allow them to approach dangers, but now they finally have the opportunity to fight. In the headquarters of the Association of Heroes, in an office with cameras, there were 2 people. Looking at the cameras, Tina told the president that there are currently 13 places in the world where the King of Gravity has appeared. Most of the doppelgangers chose crowded places to wreak havoc. For example, in a city square or in a summer island. The most unusual place was the Flight Island, which is located in the sea to the east of the city of Mehai. The whole island is lifted into the sky by the King of Gravity and is surrounded by thunderclouds. There is a large number of tourists trapped on the island. There are also students of the School of Super Abilities. Initial estimates of the total number of people involved reach tens of thousands. The president of the association waved her hand and said to immediately send all the S-class heroes. They should make it a priority to ensure the safety of citizens. All these doppelgangers have a certain power, so do not underestimate them. Then she ordered to leave the island of Summer to the Shining Star, which has outstanding flying abilities. Tina nodded and immediately contacted Shining Star, saying the coordinates of the Flight Island were sent to him. The island is now captured by the King of Gravity and soars high in the sky, so the hero will have to rely on his own strength. If he finds the true form of the Gravity King, he should report to headquarters immediately. Bright Star took off, said that he understood everything, At this time, a bunch of people on the island were surrounded by flying creatures. One of the people, sitting with his hands in the back of his head, asked him not to decrease. He can give them anything they want. Grabbing that poor guy by the throat, the monster asked for forgiveness, saying that he needs his life. Suddenly, a ray of light pierced the monster from behind directly into the pile, which is why he released the victim. Xianfa landed, asked the poor guy if he was okay, and the civilian said he was fine. Turning towards the enemies and fighting them off, the guy said that people with superpowers should first of all focus on protecting civilians. All adult men should protect women and children. The heroes must evacuate them and try to stick together. While the guy was giving out orders, he also thought that the teachers and partners of the School of Super Abilities are here, and they should be able to temporarily protect these civilians. Immediately, people with super abilities began to gather people, calming them down. Immediately flew another monster departed by someone. The Xin sisters came down to the scene. Xindia, who uses fire krill, turned to the terrible monsters and said that they are not allowed to intimidate the weak. Causing another flash of flame, the girl told them to get lost. The second sister, Mia, caused sharp shards of ice by saying that it was a snow dance. Chunks of ice flew straight at those monsters that the girl's sister attacked. Combining together, they watered the enemies with forces. Suddenly, a monster appeared behind them, and without realizing what had happened, the girls fell unconscious. It was another monster who had perverted thoughts. Rubbing his hands, he said, laughing nastily, that he had a couple of beauties for the evening. Shun-chan appeared behind the monster in an instant and smilingly asked the monster why he didn't send the monster to heaven first. The guy used the Taotic Immortal technique and began to absorb the monster, turning it into red spiritual energy. The monster was consumed by his technique, screaming in despair. After that, the guy lifted Xindia and sighed with relief, said that fortunately she had only fainted. The Gravity King descended from the sky right in front of the guy with a pillar of energy. Laughing angrily, the Gravity King told the guy that he was the one who killed his people. Several ships gathered near the island, and when one of them went towards the island, it exploded. Inside one of the ships there was a girl with white hair together with some man in a tuxedo. They were informed that a warship with an insulating coating could not break through, and they are waiting for the next instruction. The girl with white hair was Captain Xiao Lai, and looking at the man in the tuxedo, who was the Prime Minister of the world, Xin Cheng, she told him that this barrier of thunderclouds hits all approaching objects indiscriminately. The best strategy at the moment is to wait for the delivery of the electromagnetic cannon before breaking through. The Heroes Association also sent them reinforcements. The grim-faced man told the captain to pass on the order to all fleets to work together to help the Hero Association in their rescue operations. They should prioritize protecting people. Privately, the man hoped that her daughters were safe and sound. There was a massacre on the island. Monsters were chasing ordinary citizens. And then flashes appeared all over the amusement park, after which all the monsters fell for dead. Surprised residents were looking for the hero, and then a voice was heard asking them if they were all right. Everyone looked up and saw a shining star. It filled them with spirit, and they shouted that they were saved. Shining Star opened the hologram of the map, told people not to panic. He sent everyone a card to the terminal. They should all move to the air defense facilities marked on the map. The hero also promised that he would order people from the School of Super Abilities to protect them together with the guardians of the island. At this time, Shu Tian shouted for everyone to run, saying that he would detain the monster. Everyone in a panic recognized the King of Gravity and began to run away. The guy threw the hoop in the direction of the monster, but he only waved his hand, increasing gravity where the guy was, and he felt the pressure slightly inclined, and the ground cracked under his feet. The monster was surprised to notice that there was still trash that dared to take him, the King of Gravity, a challenge. His strength is 5 times greater. The golden hoop finally reached the monster, and seeing it, he grabbed the hoop with one hand. Looking at this thing, the monster wondered in perplexity why this thing was not affected by his ability. Analyzing the thing with the aura, the monster noticed that there was something on it that could block his ability to influence it. At this time, the guy fell to his knees due to the pressure, feeling an incredible heaviness, because of which he could not even move. Looking at the guy, the Gravity King asked him about the hoop, saying what it was. Then the guy also realized that the ability of the king does not affect the Yuan bracelet. The difference between a magic weapon and a normal one is the spiritual power given to a magic weapon. The master told him that the energy density of the spiritual force is greater than that of superpowers. Consequently, spiritual power can compensate for superpowers and even manipulate the latter with the help of physical states. Now the guy understood. Smiling, he released spiritual energy and noticed that it was working. The gravity on it is slowly weakening. Looking at the guy, the Gravity King angrily shouted that he had asked him a question, and as a non-entity he should answer. The guy sarcastically asked the monster that he was asking people for advice. Upon hearing this, the monster became enraged and shouted that if the guy wanted to teach him, the King of Gravity, a lesson, he should at least be able to stand on his feet. The guy needs to look at himself as he looks now. He can only lie on the ground like a dog. Laughing out loud, the monster said that the heroes are just a bunch of scum who like to be the center of attention. To himself, the monster thought that under 10 times the pressure of gravity, even the best heroes of the class will burst their internal organs and they will die within 3 seconds. The guy stood up slowly, trembling. At the same time, he said that he did not know if he liked being the center of attention. But, finally freed from the pressure, the guy shouted that the monster could finally stop barking like a dog. The guy's ears hurt from it. The surprised monster said that he could not believe that the guy could resist this, and then increasing the pressure asked how about the gravitational pressure 15 times more. The guy who had just freed himself from gravity fell to one knee again. Clenching his teeth, the guy began to make efforts, and seeing this, the monster did not believe he thought about that. What could be the strength of this guy above class of the guy freed himself again, shouted, asking the monster if it was all his strength. The monster with a wave of his hand increased gravity by 20 times and the guy glowing with a golden halo of spiritual power bowed to the pressure again. But using more spiritual power, he said that the King of Gravity is S-class. Besides being incompetent, he also screams like an animal. Having said that, the guy stood up again to his full height, releasing spiritual energy, and asking the opponent if he didn't have any other skills. Looking at the fire in the enemy's eyes, the Gravity King recoiled, thinking about how this is possible. How this guy was able to get out of his gravity control. Even if he could get rid of the gravity control, it would surely tear him to pieces. Thinking about this, the monster released a purple ball. Seeing this, the spirit master immediately appeared and told the disciple to be careful. The guy immediately bent up, avoiding a huge ball that began to absorb the earth. Hovering over this terrible ball, the guy thought that it was a very dangerous move. If the guy had been hit by this blow, his spiritual barrier would have instantly collapsed and perhaps his entire body would have been crippled by gravity. Flying towards the guy, the King of Gravity began to release balls, shouting that the guy meant death. The guy shouted to Tom not to hurry and concentrated the spiritual energy in his finger and used a finger piercing the clouds. The energy shots destroyed the enemy's attacks, then surprised the Gravity King, and he wondered what this guy had such a powerful trick. Seeing that the blows did not hit the monster, the guy thought that it was possible to avoid this. It looks like he will have to come up with something else. He immediately flew towards the forest, and seeing this, the King of Gravity laughed loudly and said that this guy ran towards the forest. Not if he was trying to use trees as cover, but no matter how much he resists, it's useless. Stopping over the forest, the monster asked the guy that he decided to hide like a mouse, releasing a huge number of projectiles. The Gravity King said that he was the same as all these worthless heroes. Running away, the guy thought that the monster was trying to provoke him to reveal the location of the guy, but he was not going to be led to it. Looking at her disciple with concern, the master spirit thought that this child actually covered his entire body with spiritual power. This is very professional for a practitioner. However, such a long period of high-speed movement would seriously affect the stability of the spiritual force barrier. If the guy isn't careful, the Gravity King will find him. Suddenly, the blonde spirit noticed that the glow of spiritual energy in the legs of the guy is more intense. She was surprised to notice that the guy had purified the spiritual energy near his feet. He increased the density of spiritual energy to become faster. Even in motion, he controls his spiritual power more intently. The protective layer wrapped around his body narrowed. This means that the density of spiritual power has reached a very pure level, and his control over spiritual power is becoming more and more skillful. The guy dodged another gravity ball, and his master continued to analyze his capabilities, thinking that the guy's concentration and understanding exceeded all her expectations. This guy has a talent for practice. She really has a nose for people with such potential. The monster looked with surprise at the flashes of golden light inside the forest and asked that his pressure had not decreased, but how this guy managed to become faster. Stopping, the monster clicked, saying that his strength had greatly decreased due to his clones. Clenching his fist, he said that there was no point in messing with the brat for so long. The guy stopped and noticed that the attack had stopped. He immediately bent up, pushing off from the logs, and was over the King of Gravity, and hit him right in the head, asking why he was frozen. The guy did not stop at one blow and continued to be the opponent. Grinning, the guy said that the skills of the King of Gravity are not focused enough. Concentrating, the guy hit the monster with all his might and sent it straight to the ground. The King of Gravity, standing up from his seat, began to emit a crushing pressure. In a rage, he shouted that the brat was not arrogant. Using a magic circle, the monster began to release purple attacks and shouted that he would show the guy his true strength. Taking off, he began to release a huge amount of pressure and began to send blows in all directions. The guy dodged them, but because of the residual waves, he was thrown to the ground. But before he fell, he used the bracelet and caught on a tree branch, spun around and landed on the ground after doing a somersault. The guy looked at his body and noticed that the duration of the protective shell was over. He found no weaknesses in this monster. Hearing his glory, the monster laughed, flying right over him, and said that the guy was right, because he really is a monster. Smiling broadly, the King of Gravity said that he loved to wane people. He had killed them countless times, so the guy has to hurry up or he will die. Turning his head, the guy said that if that was the case, then he would destroy the monster today. Destroying evil monsters is the hero's job. Laughing, the monster asked the guy if they, monsters, were born to be evil. Were they born to be killed by this guy? Smiling, the guy said that destroying them had nothing to do with their race. The monster screamed darkly, saying that people are all hypocritical. Those who turned him into a killing machine are the people themselves. The Gravity King was born in a war-torn village on the border between monsters and humans. Then the hero Xiao came up to him, and looking down at him said that such a weak monster, who can't even clench his fists, protects people, it's such a rarity. The monster said that they lived in an absolutely unequal society. When people saw him, they threw stones at him, shouting that he should not approach them. People who looked at monsters were always scared, contemptuous, disgusted. Hero Xiao once told him that it wouldn't work. He should not act alone, he should unite with him. When the monster becomes the same hero as Xiao, no one will look at him as before. The Gravity King thought he could become a hero, and then he could change everyone's attitude towards monsters. But one day he heard the conversation of the hero Xiao with others. He mockingly said that he did not consider the monster as a friend. He offered cooperation to use it as a meat shield. If he is in danger, the monster will immediately rush over and sacrifice himself for Xiao. The monster who heard these words realized that all those words of Xiao's legend were complete nonsense. Monsters are monsters, after all. At that moment, he finally realized that he didn't have to try so hard to please people, because from the moment he was born, everything was already a foregone conclusion. Realizing this truth, the Gravity King decided that since they had despised them all this time, defined them as who they pleased, why couldn't he treat them as he liked? Having decided so, the monster became a real monster and began to destroy all people. Watching these people panic and go from disgust and contempt to fear and submission, he felt an unprecedented feeling. It was amazing. While he was talking, a guy appeared over him asking him if he was done and hit him in the head. The monster defended itself, and after the collision they both jumped back. Filling his hands with energy, the Lord of Gravity shouted that the guy was born a man. He was born in a world full of happiness. How can he know this feeling when you are born with original sin? Pointing his palm towards the guy, he shouted to him that the guy should take his boring and empty hero's place and reflect on him in hell. Pursing his lips, the guy opened a red whirlpool using his technique and began to absorb the energy of the monster, saying that he should reflect on it. The surprised monster said that it was his greatest blow, gathering all his strength. How could this guy handle him so easily? The guy smiled and pointed his finger in the direction of the monster, concentrating spiritual energy in NM, and said that there are many things beyond the representation of the monster. A beam of energy hit the place where the Gravity King was, but the monster managed to fly into the sky. Laughing, he said that the guy still uses all the same tricks. He's not naive after that. This trick is really powerful, but the guy's moves are too predictable. It's easy to dodge him. The guy chuckled and said that if it was true, then the monster would probably be able to dodge it as well. Having said that, he sent a flaming energy hoop towards the flying enemy, and in the middle of the way he used the seal, and the hoop opened another dimension that released huge energy towards the monster. The surprised monster noticed the blow at the last moment and covered himself with his cries. The energy crashed into the monster and there was an explosion, and the delighted guy decided that it worked, but was surprised to notice that the monster was still intact. Barely standing on the ground, the monster held onto the wound, coughing and asking what the hell was going on. Turning around, he noticed a hoop hanging on a tree, and remembering all those moments, he said that he had more than one. He pretended to avoid the attack and left another hoop behind a tree. Gritting his teeth in anger, the monster said that this brat was pissing him off. Raising his hands, the monster activated the gravity trap. From several places on the island, pillars of purple light rose into the sky, jumping away from one of them, which broke a tree. The guy thought about what it was. The energy of the pillars combined and created a cube of gravity. Once in this cube, the guy immediately fell to his knees due to the overwhelming gravity. Looking at the guy, the Gravity King said that this gravity trap was formed by the superimposition of the effects of 12 gravity bombs. The pressure that the guy is now experiencing has doubled 12 times. With a sinister grin looking at the guy, the monster said that he had no way to escape. Glaring at the monster, the guy couldn't move at all. He didn't expect the monster to have such a trick up its sleeve. While the guy was suffering from gravity, the Gravity King sent a volley of purple energy in his direction. The guy was looking at how this volley was approaching him, and then someone landed in front of him and closed the view. A blue dome appeared and the energy crashing into it began to dissipate. The guy and the monster looked at the newcomer with surprise. Turning to the guy, the girl with the helmet said that this time, fortunately, she managed. Taoist Temple in Mount Wudang. In one of the rooms, Dongfeng King Meng informed her father, Dongfeng Zhaozu, that she had told nearby residents to hide. She asked her father not to worry and said that no one had found her. The old man looked at the strange thing in his hand, and then raising his head, said that it was good. That's all they can do, and they should leave the rest to the heroes. The girl, looking at the compass in her father's hand, asked him why the compass was constantly moving. Is it related to the chaos created by the King of Gravity? Looking at the compass, the old man said that this compass is not affected by superpowers. It was left by their ancestors. And the old man thought to himself that maybe their ancestors had returned, or maybe other immortal cultivators had appeared nearby. The old man picked up one of the talismans and activated it, took off, finally telling his daughter to look after the house while he went to investigate. The girl nodded. The sound of lilacs was heard in one building. Inside it, Mei and Kai, having left the guards, entered the room. Looking at these soldiers, Mei said she was bored. Is there even one person here who can fight? Releasing a ball of lightning, the guy asked about how this place could be called Mount Tiahulai. All the S-class heroes were sent to deal with the Gravity King. All they have to do is steal the information about the heroes that their boss needs. They reached the central information node and the guy started digging into the server. Soon the entire security system was hacked, and smiling, the guy said that this was surprisingly easy. Taking a flash drive from the server, he said that as soon as this mission was successfully completed, Mona would cancel his previous punishment. Suddenly the guy felt something and a talisman flew right in front of him. The guy immediately realized that these were super abilities and immediately jumped back using force. There was a huge explosion, and when the fervor settled, Dongfeng Yunqiu came into the office. Smiling, dragging Mei by the tail, he thanked them for helping him steal information about the heroes. As a reward, the guy promised a quick death. The guy with the long bangs shouted, asking who this guy was, and released a ray of purple energy in his direction. Using protective talismans, Dongfeng Yunqiu smiled, and after folding his hands in the seal used punishment. Under the guy with the bangs, a strange circle appeared, and seeing this, he asked how it was possible. He could not move. In a panic, the guy said that he would give the information if only Yunqiu would let him go. To himself, he was thinking about who this guy was. All the S-class heroes were sent away from here. Why is this guy's strength so terrifying? The flame burst out of the circle and engulfed a guy with bangs screaming in agony. Dongfeng Yunqiu came up and took a flash drive that fell next to the circle. Smiling, the guy thought that this is not all he wants.